One man is being victimized by our own government. One man whom they fear, yet whom millions love. One man who is willing to take the poison arrows of lawfare. One man whose voice has been taken away by a corrupt judge operating in a corrupt system. One man who has been ridiculed and insulted. One man who refused to back down. One man who refused to back down. One man who refused to back down. One man who stands between us and them. One man that wants to see America protected again. One man who wants to see America prosper again. One man who understands that a man is a man and a woman is a woman. One man who understands and protects the blessing of life. One man who wants to restore American exceptionalism. One man who once again wants to make America that shining city on a hill for all to see. A place where all the people of the world glowingly set their eyes upon. America. One man who unashamedly wants to make America great again. That one man is Donald Trump.
This is Fanfare with Barry Cunningham.
Food stamps gone. Section 8 gone. All your SNAP and EBT benefits gone. Now you got to go back to Tyrone. Woo! I think this is great. We have just single-handedly saved the black family. Why? Because Tasha can't run out on Tyrone anytime she get mad and think the government going to take care of her. Tasha can't leave Tyrone and think that the kids going to eat. Tasha can't leave Tyrone and think she going to get a free rent. Tasha can't depend on the government because years ago, black women turned their back on black men for government assistance, for food stamps, for Section 8, for welfare, for WIC, for all the things that black men bring into their household. They said, no, we don't need that. I'll go file to the government and they'll give it to me. Trump said, hell no. Woo! Now you're going to have to start choosing better. Woo! Now women are going to have babies with men that actually want to have babies with them. Woo! Now women are going to have to vet their partners and not be able to just hit them up for a check every time and think they can live off the government. Woo! This shit amazing. You're going to see more wives and less baby mamas. You're going to see more two-parent households because it's going to be a family unit because success is a team sport. You're going to see women go back to their men, go back to their child's father and try to work things out and not childishly run out to the next. Why? Because Donald Trump and the government don't got your back no more. Because you can't go over there and get free food stamps and sell them bitches 40 for the 80. Because you don't have a $72 rent anymore. Because now you're going to have to figure it out. And the only person that's left is that black man that you walked out on years ago. Donald Trump did it with this one, and I'm here for it. Queens, go back to your kings and work it out. Baby mamas, go back to your baby daddies and become wives. It's time for us to work together. This is actually amazing. No longer will you be incentivized by quitting on your household. No longer will you be incentivized by quitting on your marriage. No longer will you be incentivized by quitting on that black man. You are no longer incentivized to leave. So baby, you either pay or stay.
Ooh, so somebody sent that to me on X. And I don't know who that gentleman is, but oh man, was he on fire? And oh man, wasn't he 100% correct? You know, personally, we've been talking about the EBT thing for a week or so now. I don't think it's going to happen. I think President Trump is going to come in and save the day. That's my thought. My wish is that he actually just lets it go. Let these people freak the F out and realize there's no parachutes. And again, for the 1,000th time, let's put the disclaimer. I don't want to play the warning. Don't make me play it. I am not talking about the mentally or physically infirmed. People who deserve it and people who definitely need it should get it. All right, so I've said that so many times now, but for some reason, I still get people who hit me up on X and send me emails. Well, Barry, I'm disabled. And I'm not talking about you. We are all talking about the welfare queens. And that's, I pretty much have had it. I hope November 1st actually takes place. The Armageddon, EBT Armageddon, and then the EBT ghetto rats, guess what's coming to them? I've seen videos today that I couldn't verify, but that there are people who are selling their EBT cards for like half of what the value is, taking the cash and doing what they want with. There's so much fraud. There's so much abuse. Rand Paul put out some tweet today and says, I can't believe that there's 40 million people on, no, he said 40 million Americans on EBT. And I'm thinking to myself, dude, you're a senator. You are a sitting senator. And you don't know it's full of fraud and corruption and newcomers? Dude, be ashamed of yourself. Be ashamed of yourself. So, today, I'm trying to get things adjusted with the sun coming from the window. You may hear some background noise again because we are in day 2 of renovations. I guess I've got today and then tomorrow, and I think they're done Saturday. So as soon as they're done doing what they're doing, you won't hear any more bang, bang, clankety, clank. But please bear with me as I go through it. All right, so let me get to the rest of the show. Today's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be faster paced. I got to move through it because I got to get to the Dolphins game tonight and watch them get their butts kicked. Or maybe they'll surprise me. But in any event, today's one of those rare days. A very rare day because all, and I do mean all, of the GOP leadership has something I want to bring to you. President Trump with his trip to China, his meeting with China. Mike Johnson with his shutdown. And J.D. Vance last night with TPUSA. Let me know in the chat if you saw that. And then even John Thune had something to say. So every leader on the Republican side had something to say or something to offer that you guys want to check out. I'm glad I didn't wait till 10 o'clock in the morning last night. 10 o'clock at night to show you the China Xi Jinping meeting with President Trump because it was short. It was very, very short in terms of the public portion. The public portion was all of about 6 minutes, and that was it. They spent hours together, but they only showed about 6 minutes. No joint press conference, no joint statement. Hi, how you doing? Hey, how you doing, press? Boom, out. And then he spoke on the airplane, which I have for you this afternoon. But before we get there, let me show you something else I want you to look at. This was very interesting. Very interesting.
Nearly 30 years ago, Robert Kennedy said, "Work is the meaning of what this country is all about. We need it as individuals. We need to sense it in our fellow citizens. And we need it as a society and as a people." He was right then, and it's right now. From now on, our nation's answer to this great social challenge will no longer be a never-ending cycle of welfare. It will be the dignity, the power, and the ethic of work.
You know, I said for some time that John F. Kennedy could never get elected by Democrats today. Robert F. Kennedy Sr. could never get elected by Democrats right now. We know RFK Jr. couldn't. They didn't want any parts of him. What I didn't know is that even Bill Clinton couldn't get elected in today's Democrat Party. What has happened to the Democrat Party? How did they turn into a complete socialist? And I don't even know if we can blame it on Obama. Something has gone haywire. They've decided to go all in on socialism, and it's a losing message in most parts of the country.
Today we are taking an historic chance to make welfare what it was meant to be, a second chance, not a way of life. This bill will help people to go to work so they can stop drawing a welfare check and start drawing a paycheck. It is now clearly better to go to work than to stay on welfare. Clearly better. Because of actions taken by the Congress in this session, it is clearly better to end the terrible, almost physical isolation of huge numbers of poor people and their children from the rest of mainstream America. We have to do that.
Say what you want about Bill Clinton. I almost don't blame him with Monica Lewinsky, seeing how we've got to know his wife. But in any event, 1996 is only 29 years ago. And in 29 years, those words could not be spoken by Democrats today. Some of you guys are probably shaking your head going, wait a second. How could that be possible? Yep, you won't hear those words. They encourage these people to stay on the dole of the government.
Today we are ending welfare as we know it. But I hope this day will be remembered not for what it ended, but for what it began. A new day that offers hope, honors responsibility, rewards work, and changes the terms of the debate.
For too many, welfare has been a way of life. For too long, it has condemned too many on welfare to a lifetime at the margins of our society. Today, we start to change all that.
Anyone who wants to receive welfare must sign an individual responsibility contract so that they are forced to agree up front.
Who's that guy? Where did that guy go in 30 years? What happened? How did these people go from wanting people to go back to work to now wanting them to basically be nurses, nursing off of us, the rest of us? How? How did that happen? I don't think it was Obama.
The conditions placed on receiving the benefit. And so that they will have a plan from day one on how to get themselves off of welfare, put them to work and make them want to go to work and make it reasonable for them to go to work. It'll be a mandatory work requirement for anyone receiving welfare.
We're in the midst of a government shutdown right now that is unnecessarily forcing pain on the American people.
See, I tricked you there. Look at the date. October 2nd, 2013. For 12 years, this moron has been in Congress, hasn't done anything. And 12 years ago, he had a completely different idea on what was going to happen. But for some reason, things have changed with the Democrat Party. They have realized what they need isn't capable in America anymore. I firmly believe that Democrats realize they can no longer win. The numbers simply aren't there. There aren't enough people who have no ambition and just want to sit on the couch. So they had to import them all. And because they imported them all, they have to keep these people fed, keep these people under medical coverage. They have to give them everything. They're like newborn babies. And that's what changed in the Democrat Party. Their focus on really, truly helping poor Americans turn to, we don't need you anymore. There's not enough of you. So we're going to have to focus on poor imported people. That's what changed with the Democrat Party. And that's why November 1st, I hope President Trump and the Republicans stand strong. That's what has to happen.
It's a shutdown that was manufactured by the House GOP that has resulted in a situation where Americans all across this country have now been put in jeopardy. That's a tragedy of epic proportions.
I wonder what Hakeem Jeffries of today would say to the Hakeem Jeffries of 2013 who had that message in terms.
Would you have ever thought that Caitlin Collins would put that kind of question to Hakeem Jeffries? Well, probably because you saw what Jake Tapper did yesterday. They are coming back at them, and they don't have any answers. They literally have no answers.
Of wanting to pass a clean CR so Congress could get back to work.
Well, the Hakeem Jeffries of today definitively agrees with the Hakeem Jeffries of yesterday from the standpoint of, listen, we've said to Republicans, get to the negotiating table We want to find a bipartisan path forward. We want.
See, that's the problem that they're having right now. There is no negotiation table. It doesn't exist. It's this, which has already been agreed to by your people in the House. The House has already agreed to it. We're just waiting for the Senate. Every time he goes on television, you should go in your mind, this has nothing to do with him. There is nothing that this man and any House Democrat can do. It's already passed. It is an irrelevant appearance on television. A lot of people think, he's trying to do, there's nothing for him to work. There is no job for Hakeem Jeffries right now to be doing to try and usher any sort of negotiation. There is no negotiation. The negotiation already happened. Here's your clean CR. Sign it. Be done. There is nothing else. Every single thing that these people are doing right now, and I do mean every single thing they're doing is on purpose to hurt Americans. They have decided this was going to be the 2025 version of Custer's Last Stand. They're going all in because they have to keep the imported, the newcomers, happy. If those people aren't happy and they start leaving, well, this party's done. Or worse, if November 1st comes and these people aren't getting their food, they're not getting their Medicare, Medicaid, and they're not getting their bus passes and their Section 8. They're done. I really want to bang that drum home to you. They cannot mathematically win anything if the newcomers can't stay.
To reopen the government. We are standing by hardworking federal employees, but we need a partner in that effort. But we don't have a partner. Literally, Donald Trump, over the last 29 days, has spent more time talking to Hamas and to the Chinese Communist Party than to Democrats on Capitol Hill who represent half the country.
Not sure if he understands what he just said. I'm not sure if you grasp what he just said. He just said that Hamas and the Chinese Communist Party are better to talk to, more open to discuss things than a Democrat Party. You brought up Hamas, you brought up Xi Jinping, you brought up these many countries around the world that President Trump is talking to, and he won't talk to you. Why is that? I mean, do you look in the mirror and go, why won't President Trump talk to me? Well, I'm pretty sure you're going to find out here what China's going to be doing. You're finding out what Cambodia and Thailand and Malaysia are doing. You're finding out what Australia is doing. Every single one of these countries that he's talking to are doing a deal, meaning they're giving something in return for getting something. You people don't realize you're not in a negotiation. You have nothing to offer. Nothing. That's the problem. Any negotiation, whether you're buying a house, whether you're getting married, there's a negotiation to be had because somebody, and they feel there's a mutual, something we both can get here. If you even go on a date, hey, there's a little trade-off here. You got nothing to offer anybody. And that's one thing the Democrats can't understand. We don't care what you're saying because anything of offering you don't want to hear. Hey, you want to get these people from the Botswana LGBTQ? No, we got to keep that. We got to keep all that 1.5 trillion. You want to go to voter ID? No. So what are you giving us? And I don't think the Democrats understand that, and I'm talking about the Democrat population, is that nobody is going to enter into any negotiation in any situation ever unless there's a give and take. And as of today, 30 days in, you're not giving us anything. You're not giving us anything where we want to come to the table, where we even want to pay attention, where we even want to pick up your call. And they're not understanding that. You're the ugly person at the dance. Nobody wants to dance with you. Go take a shower and brush your teeth. Show that you got something in this. You got some skin in the game. You got nothing. And because you got nothing, nobody wants to dance with you. They'd rather dance with Hamas and China and Malaysia and Thailand and Cambodia and Australia because they have something to give to us. We're all Americans. Most of you probably watching are American. You need to be watching very closely. What are you people giving to us? We hear what you want. We've seen your demands. You want to negotiate? Do it in public. There's no stopping him from saying, here's what we would give to the Republicans. You keep saying you want a negotiation. You're on television every day. Say what you want. Be a man. Stop being a wimp. I'm calling you out. I hope someone sends you this. You're a complete pusswah. If you got something that you think we want, let us know. Otherwise, bye.
And that's extraordinary in and of itself. And we've said we will pass a spending bill that's bipartisan, that makes life better for the American people. What we will not do is support continued Republican efforts to rip health care away from everyday Americans.
See? Same old thing, just a mantra at this point. And what's happening is, as you know what's going on in New York, it's also happening in Minnesota. They are kowtowing. They are catering to a literal invasion of America. I don't know if you guys have been, everyone's been focusing on Mondami. I don't know if you've been watching what's been happening out in Minneapolis.
Assalamu alaikum. Somalia.
I'm sorry, did somebody slip in a wrong, is that a wrong cut? I mean, they got some dude here with a Somalian flag. Oh, this is the mayor candidate for Minneapolis who's probably going to win.
Somalia. Hiran State. Ma'awisle. Ma'awisle. Early voting was hadda illa November 4. I need your vote. I need you. Hadan Udkina, hello. We're going to win.
You should put that on rewind and watch that very often before it comes to a town near you. Before you think it can't happen. Before you're like, oh, those people in Minneapolis are crazy. I cannot believe. Oh, it happened in New York, the biggest city in the country. Yep, it happened. Dearborn. Little burgs all over the country where they've imported people strategically and said, hey, here's a town, and if we can take over 51% of this town, we can probably make you the mayor. You better be keeping your eye open. Watch what's going on around you. There are probably some good people in Minneapolis going, what the hell happened? I don't get it. Well, you should. But this one here, this takes the cake. You want to see what proves to me that there's a deep state? What proves to me is a deep state when you see people like that mayor candidate from Minneapolis and Zohar Mandami and Hakeem Jeffries and Mazie Hirono and on, Kamala Harris. When you look at Democrat politicians, you realize there's nothing there. They are completely void of any real thought. Maxine Waters, they have nothing. They are complete idiots. I would say that with complete confidence. They are complete idiots. How did they get where they are? There's obviously been some funny business at the ballot boxes for decades. There is no way Maxine Waters could have convinced people. I can't imagine going to one of her speeches. What the hell are you? Never mind. What do you got on your head? Mazie Hirono. Her first thing is, everyone in the audience, have you ever done sexual advance to somebody who didn't want it? That's her first thing she always asks people. How about the crazy looking one from Connecticut with the blue hair? These people are complete bonkers. Somebody installed them. Whoever was in charge made those people be in office. There's no way sound thinking adults would have ever voted for these people. And so I've got the next candidate here who I've never heard of before until today. Ashley sent it to me, like 5 people sent me this. I was like, you got to be kidding me. This woman, it's only 39 seconds, but wow.
We did have a clean CR vote on September 19th in the House. Did you vote for it?
I disagree with your characterization and want to make sure that we're very clear about what Republicans have been doing. Any bill that they've put forth, they've always had some extra stuff to it. There's always been a poison pill to it. So I disagree with your characterization.
What were the poison pills of the clean CR or the continuing resolution? You say it's not clean, that was voted on in the House in mid-September.
Here's what's important. I think what you're trying to do is shift the responsibility to Democrats.
No, I'm listening to your own words. Your own words said, and I repeat, that there's some poison pills that the Republicans are putting out. Oh, okay. What are they? Here's what's when people talking like that don't even understand the words that came out of their mouths, you know we're in a bad way. You know we're in a very bad way. When you can just see the deer in the headlights look. She said her statement, and hey, listen, there's poison pills there. Okay, what are they? Huh? The poison pills you're talking about. What's a poison pill? But right now the cracks are happening, and I'm seeing it happening across what was normally just liberal. There's now become a different category. We have liberal, and then we have the absolute nuts. We have liberals who used to be steadfast Democrats who ain't buying this nutty crap that's going on. And it's funny how that metamorphosis begins and how it happens. We've seen it with Stephen A. Smith, and here's one of his buddies, Chris Cuomo.
Don't believe the hype about ending the shutdown for people on food stamps. First of all, what happened in the military? What happened to air traffic controllers? You know what happened, right? They're playing a game. Senator Schumer is now moving the goalposts, right? What's more sympathetic? Air traffic controllers are pretty sympathetic. Well, what's more sympathetic than they? Members of the military who protect our freedoms on food kitchen lines. Okay, what's more sympathetic than them? Poor kids who can't eat. Oh, okay, let's move the goalposts to that. We want a standalone bill only for food stamps. And the other ones can just go fuck themselves.
See, people who do have functioning frontal lobes are seeing this insanity. That they're just moving the goalpost, trying to find a way to do anything, and now they found a new cause. This new cause is on November 1st, the food stamps are going to turn off, which they knew. This didn't sneak up on anybody. You knew if you didn't sign a continuing resolution 30 days ago, all these drop-dead dates that were coming up behind it. I mean, most of us knew Halloween's in, tomorrow. Most of us know that Thanksgiving is the 4th Thursday of the month. Most of us know that December 25th is Christmas. And then New Year's. Those days don't sneak up on anybody. The Democrats in Congress and in the Senate knew that November 1st, game over. They chose and have continued and continued and continued 15 times, knowing that there was a drop-dead date right in front of them. And all of the obfuscation about blame games and everything else doesn't change the fact that on November 1st, these people don't get their EBTs. They are counting that these people might get riled up. It didn't work with the no kings. In fact, just the opposite. He got a big-ass king from South Korea. Big-ass crown. Big crown. So that didn't work. 800,000, 5 million, 10 million. I don't care how many people went to that protest. Nothing happened. The military rolled out into Portland and other areas, and there's no riots happening. Washington, quiet. Even Chicago has quieted down. So what are they hoping for right now? They're hoping that on November 1st, the welfare queens will go completely ballistic. And then do what? Get themselves in trouble where they won't be able to qualify? You think that they're all going to run in and rush into stores and steal? Well, maybe that would be one way to get 3 meals. You'd get 3 free meals at that point. Hey, go on in. They're all going to move to New York and let Zorhan take care of them? No, it's all BS. I am not void of compassion. I am completely compassionate. I understand that there are good people who are going to be hurt. And I'm hoping that each one of you reaches out to a local food bank, wherever you are. I use Second Harvest down here in South Florida, where if you donate $1, it translates into, I think, 10 meals. I know probably Samaritan's Purse is going to do something. Let us do what the Democrats can't. Let us show compassion and the ability to help people eat who truly can't eat. When we had the Jabademic and all that stuff was going on, and I remember it very, very succinctly, I would bring stuff to the food bank here in Boca Raton. As you know, Boca Raton is a very affluent area. And when I went to the food bank to bring food, and Robin said, here, bring all these canned goods over, it was amazing to me. Because when I drove into the there was a delivery side and a pickup side. The pickup line was long. And in that pickup line were Mercedes and BMWs and Cadillacs and Escalades. And these were people who had owned businesses. And their businesses, the government closed and they were stuck. And people gave voluminously. Hey man, we're going to take care of you. We're going to make sure, just because they shut your business down, that you can still do what you got to do. And a lot of people in line were there because they were doing that for their employees. There were people who were feeding their employees and their employees' families instead of themselves. I'm going to venture to you right now that we Americans can take care of people better than the government. We Americans can provide people with meals and safety better than the government. As I said, if you go to, I believe it's Second Harvest, $1 feeds 10 people. So if $1 can feed 10 meals, then $10 is 100 meals. Why are we paying people $4,000 and $5,000 a month for EBT when the food banks can get it done for like $10? There's something really broken. I say we should just make it mandatory that at this point, anyone on an EBT has to go to a food bank. And then let us go ahead and do tax-free donations to food banks. If the food banks are so good, if they can get food wholesale and give you a giant box full of food that can feed a family for weeks, then why aren't we funding them? Sorry about that. Why aren't we funding the food banks? Why are we giving them $1 is 10 meals? 10 meals. Just think of that. This is all BS. We're being scammed.
You see, this is the game. Schumer's not wrong. They should be funding those things. But he's the one who shut down the government. Yes, Republicans are in control of all 3 houses. But we are in a shutdown right now because of what Democrats did in the Senate by using the filibuster, where they got to get 60 votes, to keep the continuing resolution from being passed. Look, the only fix, the real one, is to reopen the government. Now, here's the problem. Nobody ever ends a shutdown by getting what they want. It's never happened. Why? Because both sides know if you give them what they want, you're just going to keep having shutdowns. So what's the fix? What's the midterm winning move? Vote for me. I will fight for a bill and make a law that says no more shutdowns. And you create a period during which, yes, there's a constitutional demand that they pay Congress no matter what. They're not part of discretionary spending. But they can have their own House rules. And they should pay for every delay past a certain point where they don't pass a budget. If they have to use a CR instead of passing a budget, that's another fine. They are playing a game. If they wanted to pay and get people paid and take care of people, they wouldn't have shut down the government.
Absolutely. It's all a ruse. While he was finishing up talking there, I went on to Feeding Florida, which is a part of the second Harvest Food Bank. I want to show you something. Let me pull this up on the screen so you guys can see this. I guess things have gotten more expensive, but nonetheless, let me show you this. Okay, let me cut over here. This is from their page, Feeding Florida, and let me do this, make it smaller so you can see. All right, you can donate here. Don't do it because I'm telling you, I'm just showing you something. Complete your secure transaction. Every bit does a lot. For every $10 donated, we can provide 62 meals. So inflation has hit them too. It's no longer 10. So for $1, they can do 6.2 meals. 6.2 meals for $1. $10, 62 meals. 62 meals for $10. Just about everybody can do away with having to get a Grande Latte from Starbucks and give a food bank $10 and let them feed 62 meals. And then tell these welfare queens, don't go to Walmart, they're closed. Go pick up your box at the food bank. I don't see how anybody can have a problem with that. Anybody. There's a food bank here over in Wilton Manors. Wilton Manors, I forget the name of it, but it was at the Poverello Center. If you guys want to look this up, the Poverello Center. And I met with, it was a priest at one time, Father, I forget his name. I don't know if he's still alive, but when I was doing houses over there, he came to one of our houses. And I said, you looking to buy a house? He goes, nope, I'm looking to talk to you. And I was, what do you, did I do something, Father? He's like, no, I'd like you to donate to our center. Never even heard of him. He's like, here's my address, come over there. And the Poverello Center was opened by a priest. He might have been a gay priest. I'm not really sure what he was all about. But the center fed sick gay people with AIDS. They could no longer work. They weren't getting EBT cards back then. They were, ostracized, and these people needed food. And I went, to the meeting, and I'm looking around, and he's like, if you could donate $100, Barry, $100, I will create 1,000 meals. I'm like, what? I had never heard about that. I was completely dumbfounded. I could not believe that me just handing over $100 was going to provide 1,000 meals. And when I gave him that $100 check, I felt like I was getting blessings from the Vatican. I mean, people came over and they're hugging me, and I'm like, hey, what? I didn't do nothing. SB loves that. I'm like, it's a check for $100. Oh, you don't even know this. Oh, God bless you. And that's when it kind of hit me. I've donated a lot, but when I saw people doing backflips for $100, I was like, whoa, what's going on here? And then he took me over to the shipping department, and they showed me the boxes that they would put out. And no, you weren't getting steak and lobster, but you were getting, all kinds of food. You even got soap. You even got shampoo. You got all kinds of stuff in addition to the food. So tell me why we're paying people thousands of dollars to go to Walmart and different stores. Why are we not just go to the food bank? They've got the deals with the supermarkets and the manufacturers. Let that be where you get your food. Still going to get your sustenance. You just can't go in and get lobster and steak and everything else. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. I think most of you, matter of fact, I know, because when the hurricane came and you and I and everybody else saw what was happening up in Asheville in North Carolina. Do you know how much you guys did? Let me tell you, I should have done a show afterwards. We raised nearly $5,000 in donations just from our fanfare audience. And I had told everybody I would match it. And I didn't know it was going to be like that. And, you know, we brought the people from Samaritan's Purse on, and they did an interview, and it really helped people. It wasn't the government, wasn't FEMA, it was Samaritan's Purse. So why aren't we leaning more on charity instead of the government? Drives me crazy. Be right back. Today's show is brought to you by Juvenon. Are you feeling tired, sluggish, or foggy? It could be poor blood flow. Blood Flow 7 by Juvenon is scientifically designed to support healthy circulation, so you'll feel energized, clear-headed, and vibrant again. It's packed with natural ingredients like nitrocyanine, I hope I said that correctly, S7, and trans-resveratrol. Blood Flow 7 works by boosting nitric oxide levels, a molecule that relaxes blood vessels, helping your blood flow freely to every corner of your body. And that means more oxygen and nutrients to your brain, heart, muscles, and even those places that might need a little extra help as you age.
They call it a lifting. They also use another word, but I'm not going to use that word. You know what that is? The word, it starts with an E. You know what the word is? If I ever used it, I'd be run out of town by you people.
Oh, behave. Yeah. Yeah, baby. Yeah.
Let's talk about the fact that President Trump incited an erection.
Explanation was not they didn't like Donald Trump. They said he participated in an erection.
With just one dose a day, you can reclaim your stamina, support heart health, and improve overall vitality, all without any caffeine or stimulants. Try Blood Flow 7 today and feel the difference where it matters most, inside your veins. All right, so let's go ahead and dig into President Trump and Xi Jinping. I'm telling you, it was very short. They shook hands and they met for about 6 minutes, and then he talked on a plane. So let's jump in.
Mr. President, the President of the People's Republic of China.
Good to meet you. Great pleasure to see you again.
Good to see you again.
Me too.
And we're going to have a very successful meeting, I have no doubt. But he's a very tough negotiator. That's not good. We know each other well.
Mr. President, do you plan to sign a trade deal today?
Could be. I think we'll have a great understanding. We have a great relationship. We've always had a great relationship.
Let's go. Will you discuss Taiwan, sir?
Which way? Thank you very much, everybody. Please. Very good. Yes. Well, thank you very much. It's a great honor to be with a friend of mine, really for a long time now, if you think about it. The very, very distinguished and respected President of China. And we will be having some discussions. I think we've already agreed to a lot of things, and we'll agree to some more right now. But President Xi is a great leader of a great country, and I think we're going to have a fantastic relationship for a long period of time. And it's an honor to have you with us. Thank you very much. Thank you.
President Trump, it is a great pleasure for me as well to meet you. And it feels very warm seeing you again because it's been many years. Since your re-election, we have spoken on the phone 3 times, exchanged several letters, and stayed in close contact. And our joint guidance, China-US relations have remained stable on the whole. Given our different national conditions, we do not always see eye to eye with each other. And it is normal for the 2 leading economies of the world to have frictions now and then. And in the face of winds, waves, and challenges, you and I, at the helm of China-US relations, should stay the right course and ensure the steady sailing forward of the giant ship of China-US relations. I always believe that China's development goes hand in hand with your vision to make America great again. Our 2 countries are fully able to help each other succeed and prosper together. Over the years, I have stated in public many times that China and the United States should be partners and friends. This is what history has taught us and what reality demands. A few days ago, in the latest round of consultation, our 2 economic and trade teams reached basic consensus on addressing our respective major concerns and made encouraging progress. This provided the necessary conditions for our meeting today. Mr. President, I am ready to continue working with you to build a solid foundation for China-US relations and create a sound atmosphere for the development of both countries. Mr. President, you care a lot about world peace, and you are very enthusiastic about settling various regional hotspot issues. I appreciate your great contribution to the recent conclusion of the Gaza ceasefire agreement. During your visit to Malaysia, you witnessed the signing of the Joint Declaration on Peace along the Cambodia-Thailand border, to which you had provided input. China has been helping in our own way Cambodia and Thailand properly settle their border disputes, and we have also been promoting peace talks to resolve other hotspot issues. The world today is confronted with many tough problems. China and the U.S. can jointly shoulder our responsibility as major countries and work together to accomplish more great and concrete things for the good of our 2 countries and the whole world. I look forward to exchanging views with you on questions important for our 2 countries and the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's great to have you all. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, why did you change your nuclear plans? Why are you going to be doing more nuclear testing?
Thank you very much, everybody.
That harpy you heard yelling was Christian Welker from MSNBC or NBC News, and she wanted to interfere that meeting with that stupid question, which she got trashed online today about. But in any event, that was the extent of the public meeting. You didn't see anything. That was it. One statement by Trump, one statement by Xi Jinping, and that was it. Everybody was waiting for the big buildup, and they just get out, that's it, go away. That's how you know there was some serious negotiation going on. Now, I had looked over in the chat, and it was interesting to me. People are like, I don't trust him. I don't trust this guy. I don't trust that. You know what? That tells you you have the makings of a deal. Because people are saying Xi Jinping doesn't look happy to be there. He probably isn't. The last person he wants to be sitting across is Donald Trump. Didn't have to do that with Biden. He called all the shots. But the fact that he himself came to meet with Donald Trump in South Korea as a part of that blitz that he was doing tells you either side right now is not going to get everything they want. But that's what a negotiation is. Yeah, I don't want to be here talking to him. I gotta, huh? Yeah, you gotta. And Trump probably felt the same way. Dude, you have to come here. We need to fix this. And Trump's not happy. And so the 2 of them have the makings of a deal. What are you going to do for me? Well, we've already heard some of what China's going to be doing. If you notice what I had put at the bottom was, hope you bought some soybeans this morning. I hope you went and got some soybeans after you found out what Xi Jinping said, going to buy gazillion barrels of soybeans. I never knew soybeans were that important. But now you do. There's the parts of the deal are now beginning to leak out. We won't know all of it until it's actually signed, but that part did leak out, that a gazillion pounds of soybeans are going to be bought by the Chinese. When Xi Jinping 2 days ago said, I'm not buying any. So there's a give and take here. We don't know the parameters of it, but that's a good thing. And it's a good thing, and if you trust Trump, you got to listen to what he says here.
Okay, hello everybody.
Mr. President.
I thought it was an amazing meeting. He's a great leader of a very powerful, very strong country, China. And what can I say? We have, it was an outstanding group of decisions, I think, that was made. A lot of decisions were made, too. There wasn't too much left out there. And we've come to conclusion on many very important points, and we'll be handing that to you in a little while. We're having, because there was a lot of different things.
You and I have watched President Trump talk many, many, many times. This is probably the most couched I've ever seen him. He's finding every single word to make sure he doesn't really tell you yet what's going on. And he's got that faraway stare. Usually he's looking right at you when he's talking. And this time he's looking up, looking over here, closing his eyes a little bit because he's being very, very careful. This which tells me that this negotiation that they're doing, this give and take that these two superpowers are going to be talking about, is very, very, very tenuous. We got to get this right. We got to button this up, and we don't need anybody else messing with this.
Many of them very important. We're in agreement on so many elements, large amounts, tremendous amounts of the soybeans and other farm products are going to be purchased immediately, starting immediately. If you notice, President Xi authorized yesterday for China to start, did you know that, right? China to start buying in very large quantities of soybeans and other things, which I appreciated. That was a very nice gesture. And many other things like that. On fentanyl, we agreed that he was going to work very hard to stop the flow. You know, it's a very complex subject because it's used for lots of different reasons, including anesthetics and things. But he's going to work very hard on it, precursors, and...
Are you guys seeing what I'm saying? You've seen enough of Trump talking to know that boom, 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 the words fly. And he's being very reserved. Very, very, very reserved. I haven't seen him this reserved. I mean, the other day he's telling you, we're just going to kill these people if they do this. We're going to blow this up. And he's being very, very tempered.
I think you're going to see some real action taken. I've agreed, as you know, I put a 20% tariff on China because of the fentanyl coming in, which is it's a big tariff. And based on his statements today, I reduced it by 10%. So,
all right. So again, give and take. You're going to buy a whole bunch of soybeans, gazillions of pounds of soybeans. You're going to buy that from us. What are you going to do for me, Trump? All right, I'm going to lower the tariff down from 20 to 10. So just in the first 2 minutes here, you see an example of what a negotiation is supposed to be. I need you to immediately start restocking and buying some of these soybeans. How much? Gazillion pounds. All right. What do you want? I want you to lower the tariffs down to 10%. Probably looked at Scott Bessent, be right there, looked at Scott Bessent and said, okay, do it.
It's 10% instead of 20% effective immediately. I believe he's going to work very hard to stop the death that's coming in. But again, it's complex because of what fentanyl is, what the precursors do. So I think you're going to see a big difference. We've had discussions on many of the elements that you're talking about all the time. You're asking me questions, and most of those things were I think agreed to for the most part. I think we agreed to almost everything in a very acceptable form. I wouldn't say everything was discussed because there were things that probably, in retrospect, we could have discussed that we didn't, for some reason, didn't come up. But if you have any questions, let me know.
What about chips, sir? Did he agree? Did you agree to sell any more downgraded
chips? We did discuss chips, and they're going to be talking to NVIDIA and others about taking chips. Look, we make great chips. NVIDIA is the leader. And I'll be speaking to Jensen from NVIDIA, but they're going to be discussing that with NVIDIA to see whether or not they can do. I said that's really between you and NVIDIA, but we're sort of the arbitrator or the referee. It's a little rough up here. The skies are a little rough.
And just to clarify, sir, that is the downgraded Blackwell chips. You would authorize those to be exported?
No, not the Blackwell. We're not talking about the Blackwell. That just came out yesterday. But a lot of chips, a lot of the chips. And that's good for us.
How soon do you think you'd be able to sign an actual...
Please, come on. You know what you do? Yeah, come on.
Let me
stand right over here.
Yeah, hey, everybody, thanks. Let me just make a point on the chips. As the president was saying, there's so many chips we already sent to China, a lot of advanced chips, et cetera. And as he said, NVIDIA will talk to China and see what's possible. The Blackwell chips, of course, weren't discussed. We focused on export controls of China on rare earths, and they're going to keep those flowing, which is quite important.
What are the major stumbling blocks that are left now to work through, and how soon do you think you could sign a trade deal with China?
Well, I think pretty soon. We have not too many major stumbling blocks. We have a deal. Now, every year we'll renegotiate the deal, but I think the deal will go on for a long time, long beyond the year. We'll negotiate at the end of a year, but all of the rare earth has been settled, and that's for the world. I mean, worldwide. This, I guess you could really say this was a worldwide situation, not just a U.S. situation. So we continue to produce the rare earths and buy the rare earths and everything else, when you see from other countries. But China is, that whole situation, that roadblock is gone now. There's no roadblock at all on rare earth. That will hopefully disappear from our vocabulary for a little while.
So understand, and even Xi Jinping said it, because I played my little noise there, my sound effect, cha-ching, everything that President Trump is doing is to drive prosperity. You can't have prosperity without safety, so those two go hand in hand. But if you have safety, and then you have willing participants, including China, who understand prosperity. Xi Jinping said it. We want to prosper. Those of you who have watched my show probably are sick of me saying it now, but I want you to do some homework and go back. I don't think you have to go back that long and count how many times you've heard Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or Chuck Schumer or what's the other idiot, Hakeem Jeffries, how often they say the word prosperity or prosper. Well, I'm going to save you some time. They never talk about it. And you're hearing it constantly. And I think some people, even on the right, it's too novel. They don't understand. What do you mean? Why is everybody talking about prosperity? Why are you talking about wealth and money and promulgating wealth? Why is that so important? It may not be important because it hasn't been an opportunity. What President Trump is doing and what he's doing around the world and getting crowns and everything else is, I know what makes you guys tick is the same thing that makes me tick. You guys make more money, and then we make more money, and then you don't have to launch bombs at each other. Oh, yeah, that kind of makes sense. We don't have to fight. If everybody, this is a big world, if everybody is enjoying prosperity, what in the hell are you fighting over? Now, we know in the Middle East, prosperity doesn't matter because most of that is cultural. And that's what the problem is with Minneapolis and New York City. It's cultural, where these people want you to conform to their ideology. But most people around the world and most countries enjoy and like prosperity. So I'm pretty sure when President Trump is flying around to different countries and he's like, that stuff that you were doing, all that DEI woke crap ain't gonna fly no more. It inhibits prosperity. It destroys wealth. Nobody wants this stuff. I understand you want it because you want to control people so that a little bit of people can have wealth. And that's one of the big things right now people need to understand about the Democrats is they don't want prosperity. They've never talked prosperity. It has never been a part of any of their platforms. Because they want the wealth concentrated up here, and all the worker bees have to, beg for more, like they're in the Oliver movie. Please, more, please. Imagine if people didn't need the government to take care of them. What would happen? Imagine, like the gentleman in the initial video, like, hey, stay with your man or make better choices. Don't just go around flopping from bed to bed and pumping out babies thinking the government is your daddy. It is a complete change of ideology that I think most people have become less aware of as they've gotten older. I personally grew up in what would have been called a prosperous, prosperity-generated or inducing environment. My father started a business, came here from Jamaica with his brothers and started a construction business. Robin's father came over here, I believe he was from India, or his relatives were from India, and he started a fishing business. And they had this huge boat where they used to take people fishing in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. So she and I both come from entrepreneurial backgrounds. So it was never foreign to us. It's like, what do you mean you can't? What do you mean you can't get what you want? So I watched it personally as we've gone through decades. She and I are the same age, basically. I know she hates me saying that, but I'm older. And we've watched it to where people's minds came completely off of what we were brought up as. And that merit didn't matter anymore. You didn't have to have merit because everybody got to play. Everybody got a trophy. And then T-ball. And then all the other stuff happened so that everybody could be the same. And the more people wanted to be the same, the less prosperity was promoted. There was no achievement. There was nothing, hey, I want to be there. And so when I posted the other day of the boat parade, of course, I got some bad comments and stuff like that. I'm like, stop being ashamed. And then the other side of the coin is, stop thinking you can't have it. I've looked around from podcaster to podcaster to podcaster, and a lot of people do the news, but I'm thinking, are you following what President Trump is saying over and over and over? Now you guys pay attention to it because I play the sound effect every time he brings it up. And I believe it's all the time. You voted for a guy who keeps telling you, I want you to be prosperous. I want you to do better. It's not a bad word.
1 year pause on the policy they announced?
It's a 1 year agreement, and we'll extend it after a year.
And what will
like we do. It's a 1 year deal that will, I think, be very routinely extended as time goes by.
To be totally clear, they're not going to impose the rare earth controls that they proposed. President Trump and President Xi came to an understanding of that.
What will your new tariff rate on China's goods be once you sign the deal?
Other than what the tariffs remain exactly the same.
55%.
It's about, it was 57, now it's 47.
And how long?
Because we reduced it by the fentanyl, because I believe they are really taking strong action. We've already seen the action on fentanyl, and they're taking very strong action. so reduced to 10%.
So that November date is gone when it was going to go up again?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right. So
That's all.
On fentanyl, they've agreed there are a variety of precursors. You may recall that actual fentanyl was scheduled by China in the president's first term successfully. There are certain precursors where they take whatever actions they need to control that. If they can control rare earths, we know they can control the precursors. And President Xi, I think, was very strong in saying he was going to enforce those laws internally. And of course, we'll watch that. And we'll
He's
work
going to
with
be
them.
very strong in enforcing the fentanyl, everything having to do with fentanyl and regulations internally, including taking very strong measures against those that don't obey.
And a variety of other tariffs still remain. Section 301 tariffs from the original, a variety of Section 232 tariffs. Some of these tariffs are, as the president mentioned, around 40%. For some individual products, it may go up to 100%, but as a general matter, it's about 45, 47%.
So, sir, it sounds like we might be going to China then after the successful meeting.
That's another thing we agreed. I'll be going to China in April, and he'll be coming here sometime after that, whether it's in Florida, Palm Beach, or Washington, D.C.
Did you read anything on the...
All right, so I see some people commenting, who's this guy? This is Jameson Greer. He's a U.S. trade representative. He works very closely with China and Scott Bessent as well. Something else I want to show you, talking about some prosperity and what President Trump has said was going to be a strong staple of his platform, drill baby drill. Well, it says, breaking, in a massive development, the United States Senate voted to unleash fossil fuel development, oil, at the National Petroleum Reserve in Alaska to the tune of millions of acres, undoing a Biden-era decision. It passed 52-45. 13 million acres will now be opened up. This is huge. Now it's time for the House to give final passage, which undoubtedly they will. So he's going into the drill baby drill enhancement and doing more there. So here's another question I have for you. You know about the meetings and deals he's cutting with all these countries. You know about the drilling. You know about the soybeans. You know all this is happening. What are the Democrats doing? We need health care for... They have a single issue party. That's all they care about, is giving people free stuff. Are you doing anything to enhance America? Anything? We need to make sure that the mouths of the little birdies in the nest continue to get their gruel.
Shipping fees, the 301 shipping investigation.
Well, that's been.
So we're going to postpone that while we negotiate with them about that issue. We're trying to rebuild shipbuilding. The Cranes just agreed to invest $150 billion in shipbuilding, so we think we have a good path forward.
But that's no longer an issue.
Did the war in Ukraine or Taiwan come up?
We discussed that, and we discussed basically these are rough winds in Asia. I must tell you, this is a rough flight. We could have waited an hour, maybe. This is a little tough. These are tough conditions for interviews. You know, they're going to be watching Trump. They're going to say, he didn't look too good. He's got the shakes. I don't have the shakes, but people are going to think I do.
You're pretty solid.
So Ukraine, it came up?
Yeah, it did come up. Ukraine came up very strongly. We talked about it for a long time, and we're both going to work together to see if we can get something done. We agree that the sides are, locked in and fighting, and sometimes you have to let them fight, I guess. Crazy. But he's going to help us, and we're going to work together on Ukraine. There's not a lot more we can do. He's been buying oil from Russia for a long time. It takes care of a big part of China. And, I can say India's been very good on that front. But we didn't really discuss the oil. We discussed working together to see if we could get that war finished. It doesn't affect China. It doesn't affect us. And I'd like to see it done on the basis I don't like to see 6, 7, 8,000 young people, mostly young people, for the most part soldiers, be killed. It's not costing us anything. In fact, we make money, and I don't even want to talk about making money. I don't care about making money in that case. But, we send weapons to NATO. They buy full price. They buy the weapons. They give them to whoever, but I think they give them probably to Ukraine for the most part.
Just wanted to break in for a second because I know some of you guys would want to know this information. given the whirlwind trip that President Trump has had. He just arrived back in the United States and is making his way off of Air Force One right there. So President Trump is back in the United States, back on terra firma here in America. So he's on the ground right now in Washington.
And we discussed it. We discussed something. We're going to work together to try and get the war with Russia and Ukraine solved.
What about the Taiwan issue, sir?
It never came up. Taiwan never came up. It's not discussed, actually.
What else didn't come up that you thought might come up? You had mentioned you didn't get to everything.
I mean, we had a long meeting, as you know, but a lot of things we discussed in great detail. A lot of things we brought to finalization. A lot of finalization. I thought it was a great meeting. I think it was a very friendly meeting. It was a good meeting for two very large, powerful countries. And that's the way we should get along with the large, powerful.
Why did you write your Truth Social about nuclear testing? What about resuming nuclear testing? What prompted you to do that right before the meeting?
It had to do with others. They seem to all be nuclear testing.
Russia?
We have more nuclear weapons than anybody. We don't do testing. We've halted it many years ago. But with others doing testing, I think it's appropriate that we do also.
Any details around the testing, sir? Like where, when?
It'll be announced. We have test sites. It'll be announced.
Did Israel give you a heads up before they bombed Gaza? And is it still a ceasefire if they're stopping?
It is. No, they had a sniper, and one of their soldiers were killed, and they did retribution. So we'll see. But it is a ceasefire. It's back to ceasefire.
But is that
What's the thinking behind reducing troops in Romania, the drawdown of U.S. troops in Romania?
You'd have to ask. I mean, I can tell you about it, but it's not very significant. It's not a big deal.
On nuclear weapons, sir, which countries do you have in mind when you say you want to send a signal?
What a rough ride this is. The interviews are tough enough without your life being threatened. You guys okay?
Yes, sir.
That camera guy's very steady. We're going to look real bad today on television, I'll tell you. I think that, it's pretty much, I think we've discussed mostly what we said, pretty comprehensive. We're going to issue a statement on some of the details. But overall, I guess on the scale of from 0 to 10, with 10 being the best, I would say the meeting was a 12. Okay, I think it was a 12. I think, very importantly, just the whole relationship is very, very important. And I think.
Now, that's a huge statement. On a scale from 1 to 10, the meeting was a 12. So that should tell everybody a whole lot right there, that this meeting was a amazing success.
It's really good.
Especially coming on the heels of the successful trip. We're in Malaysia. You signed a peace deal for Cambodia and Thailand. Critical mineral deals with all our allies.
So many successful meetings. Right? And so many meetings great for our country, with literally hundreds of billions, trillions of dollars have come into our country over the last 4 days, represented by this meeting. But trillions of dollars, where Toyota is going to build plants, $10 billion worth of plants. And, I could go over so many different companies coming in. They're pouring money into the United States. So beyond even this meeting, this was an unbelievable trip. And I hope you're glad you were a part of it. It was big. Every country, Japan, I mean, you look at South Korea, Japan, and so many other countries that we met there. They're investing tremendous amounts of money in the United States, like money that we've never seen before.
So are we investments from China in the U.S., additional investments, anything like that?
They have investments, and they will invest. And China, I think they feel very strongly. They congratulated me on the tremendous success that we've had, because there's never been a country that has had so much money come into it for purposes of investment, for building, for auto plants, for AI, etc. So he was very strong on congratulating me for that.
But he didn't commit to any additional investment or outflow.
We didn't really discuss it, but he would.
Did you ever get through to Kim Jong-un about setting up a meeting? Does he have a phone?
We never were able to talk because I was so busy. And really, this is why we came. I think it would have been maybe disrespectful to the importance of this meeting if we did that. So I'd come back with respect to Kim Jong-un. I'd come back. It was.
What do you want to talk about with him?
I had a great relationship with Kim Jong-un. I think if I didn't get elected, you would have had. If Hillary Clinton came in at the time, he doesn't like too many people other than me. If you want to know the truth, I think you would have had a big war. Could have been a very bad war too.
Sort of with the nuclear announcement, just one more on the nuclear announcement. Do you worry that we're entering a more risky environment when it comes to nuclear issues?
No, I don't think so. I think we have it pretty well locked up. But we have more than anybody. But I see them testing. I say, well, if they're going to test, I guess we have to test. I'd like to see a denuclearization because we have so many, and Russia has some. Russia's second, and China's third, and China will catch up within 4 or 5 years. I think de-escalation would be, they would call it denuclearization, would be a tremendous thing, and it's something we are actually talking to Russia about that, and China would be added to that if we do something. Thank you all. It was a great success. It was a great honor. I mean, he's a tremendous leader of a very powerful country, and I give great respect to him, and we appreciate the fact that he came for this meeting. Thank you very much.
Anything on Canada? Anything on Canada?
We had a very nice conversation with him last night. We really did.
Thank you.
Hey, did you guys know that U.S. life expectancy peaked at 78 years in 2014? It's been all downhill since then, and global life expectancy is declining for the first time in 30 years because people are aging faster than ever before. This is due to more toxins in the air, chemicals in our soil and food, and other external factors that are new to us. What most people don't know is that we can actually fight aging on a cellular level. You guys know I've been talking to you about kimchi, and kimchi is one of those things that can help you fight aging. Scientists discovered that kimchi actually slows down the aging process of human cells. The power of nature can outweigh the power of pharmaceuticals without the nasty side effects. Now you can get those same benefits in a simple capsule with Kimchi One. Each capsule delivers over 900 probiotic strains plus antioxidants and enzymes that support your digestion, your metabolism, and your skin health from the inside out. As we age, we become more susceptible to microbial threats. Kimchi is a natural antimicrobial, helping your body fight off harmful bacteria, viruses, and even toxins. You've seen RFK Jr. You've seen what kind of shape he's in. All of this works. It boosts your immunity and your energy. I almost think Trump's taking it as well, in addition to RFK Jr., because I don't know how he can keep up that schedule. I'm telling you, I have to keep up with it, and my wife, Robin's always telling me, you better make sure you're stocked up on everything. Best of all, Kimchi One is 100% made in the USA, all natural and non-GMO. Support your gut, protect your cells, and feel younger every day from Kimchi with Kimchi One from Brightcore Nutrition. And you can get Kimchi One right now. You can get an exclusive offer by clicking the link in the description below, or you can use the code BARRY for 25% off your entire order. Or for an even better deal, call my friends at Brightcore for up to 50% off your order and free shipping. Give them a call now at 888-418-6738. That's 888-418-6738. I got an email, no BS, I got an email 2 days ago. Actually, Ashley got the email, and then she forwarded it to me, that somebody had called Chapter, and they were ecstatic because the people at Chapter really helped them. See, if you guys don't know, Chapter is an unbelievable Medicare counseling service. And as you're well aware, Medicare annual enrollment is happening now. And as a newly minted 65-year-old myself, that means I've been getting buried under the same spam calls and junk mail you have been. It's a nightmare. I have also learned that Medicare plans change every single year. Apparently, some even go away. So for those of us that love our plans today, it might not be the best one for you in 2026. And if you don't double check, you could lose coverage for doctors or prescriptions that you count on. To make matters worse, most Medicare agents are pushy salespeople that work on commission, and they'll push you into the plan that pays them the most. That's why I personally recommend Chapter for the Fanfare family. They check every single plan in America to make sure you get the best deal. And on average, they can save people $1,100 a year. They saved the lady who emailed us like $420. Fantastic. It also has Cadillac plans. So if you're not worried about saving money, but you want to make sure you got the best coverage possible, give them a call. They'll make it dead simple for you. They'll review all your options in one free call that take less than 20 minutes. And if you're already on the right plan, you're done. If not, they'll help you switch. Sounds like an elephant out there. So get some peace of mind during this enrollment period. Call Chapter at 475-328-3545 and make sure you're set heading into 2026. All right, so we've got some stuff happening that's really going to be putting pressure on the Democrats. Right now, or just minutes ago, J.D. Vance at the White House was meeting with business leaders. So let's listen to what J.D. Vance said after the meeting.
You know, what we just did was a little roundtable with leaders in the aviation industry. We've got leaders of labor represented. We've got leaders of the businesses that are, of course, making the airline industry run. And I just wanted to hear from people about the stresses of the aviation industry in light of the fact of the shutdown. And here's what I found out. It actually worries me a great deal because I think that as much as delays have gotten worse over the last couple of weeks, everybody here is very worried that we're going to see more delays, more stresses on the people who are actually making the aviation system run, and more problems for both the consumers but also the great workers who actually make this incredible shining jewel of the American economy actually work and work on time and work safely. Here are the things that I worry about. I worry about the people who are scanning our bags and making us get through the security line. I worry they're not getting paychecks. They're starting to get worried about how to feed their families and how to pay school tuition and everything else. I worry about the pilots who haven't gotten paid in a long time. I worry about the air traffic controllers who, of course, make this entire system extra safe. I worry about them, more worried about their credit card bill than they should be because they're not getting a paycheck because Democrats refuse to open the government. Now, I understand that a lot of Americans are sick of partisanship in Washington, D.C. Trust me, I've been here for 9 months in this job. I am sick of partisanship in Washington, D.C. But this is very, very simple. Every partisan dispute, every policy disagreement, all of these things we can talk about, we can reason through, we can disagree, we can shake hands and compromise on some of those issues, hopefully. But this is something that every single American, Democrat or Republican or Independent, should be able to agree on. Open the government. Stop this craziness and open the government. It's causing way too many problems, and some of the folks behind me are the people who are dealing with the problems.
All right, so he said that, and then right after that, the CEO of United Airlines spoke.
Really thanking the professionals, the air traffic controllers, the folks at the TSA, also the FAA, the people in management. They're working hard. They are keeping the skies safe. They've minimized delays. Fewer than 2% of flights have been delayed so far because of air traffic control shortages. So they've done a great job. But it's putting stress on people. It's not fair to those people. It's also putting stress on the economy. The first couple of weeks this had no impact on the economy, but as every day goes by, the impacts start to grow. And airlines are a pretty good real-time indicator of the economy, and we start to see still minor, but steep booking impact, and you see that happening in the economy. We put the whole economy at risk. And so it's been 30 days, and while I don't have a position on which partisan side and how things should be settled with healthcare, it has been 30 days. I also think it is time to pass a clean CR, use that as the opportunity to get into a room behind closed doors and negotiate hard on the real and substantive issues that the American people want our politicians on both sides of the aisle to solve. But let's get a clean CR and get that negotiation done behind closed doors without the pressure and without putting the American workers and the American economy at risk. Here.
So now you got big corporations like United Airlines that probably employs tens of thousands of people worldwide that, hey, you got to fix this. I know it's October 30th, but I don't know how the Democrats can continue pushing this stuff out. I saw something where SV posted that Hakeem Jeffries is out there talking crap about Trump getting his butt kicked on a world stage. these people have completely lost it. Americans don't want to hear that. They want to know, are they going to be able to buy groceries on Saturday, or they're going to have to steal it? They want to know, are they going to be able to travel for Thanksgiving? Are they going to be able to buy Christmas presents? Nobody cares about your false bravado talking crap about President Trump. Fix it. Tell Chuck Schumer to get in the room and sign the damn paper. Stop with all the theatrics. You're getting paid, but people in the airline industry can't. And whoever is going to be hurt with the EBT stuff, you got 2 days. Actually, 1.5. That's it. And actually, you could say 1, because I don't know if they can fix something if it goes to Saturday. It's on a weekend. So we shall see. But then again, they'll probably have a judge come riding in on a horse and say that Donald Trump has to cut a check or something. Don't doubt it. Don't doubt that they're not going to find some judge somewhere who's going to come out and say, I put an injunction on the injunction. I'm putting an injunction on the fact that you can't pay. Go find the money someplace. It's coming. Brace yourself. It is coming that some judge that they will get in front of will tell the President of the United States, you got to do this. Which I can only hope President Trump says, go pound sand. You know, the last one who said he couldn't do something, well, yeah, he got smacked upside the head too. All right, so this is Mike Johnson and his press conference today. Let's get to it because I got to run.
Well, good morning, everyone. We are now beginning day 30 of the Democrat shutdown. And as there are millions of Americans this morning that are embracing themselves for further pain and hardship, we'll highlight some of that this morning. The Democrats, incredibly, are showing no signs at all that they want to end their shutdown. Now, they will have another opportunity today. The Democrats in the Senate will have their 15th opportunity to do the right thing. We're concerned that they won't. And if they reject this for the 15th time, they will be ensuring that this shutdown continues past the November 1st deadline. And that is a fateful deadline for a number of reasons. Starting on Saturday, let me give you a list of things that this means for the American people. It means that tens of millions of American families will struggle to keep food on the table because the SNAP program benefits will run dry. It means that WIC assistance, that's women, infants, and children, the nutrition programs, will be at risk of running dry. It means that Head Start centers, which serve 60,000 children nationwide, will be at risk of closure. Millions of federal workers, and we've listed them here every day. You're talking about air traffic controllers and TSA agents and park rangers and Border Patrol agents, law enforcement around the country. The stewards of our nuclear arsenal will miss their paychecks. Thousands of flights, by result, will be canceled or delayed, while our borders and national security will be directly jeopardized at a very dangerous moment in world history. And our country will lose tens of billions in gross domestic product. With each passing day, the pain gets more real. And the Democrats are guaranteeing when they vote to reject our clean funding resolution. We expect they will do that again today for the 15th time. They are showing no shame whatsoever in their actions. Now, just as we clearly know what is happening, which we've recounted here every morning, the American people can never forget. We also clearly know why it's happening. And I brought a few friends. We brought some colleagues here from the state of New York and New York City to share with you about some of what's going on here. Back in March, this is very clear what happened. Let me summarize very briefly as I can. Back in March, Chuck Schumer voted for the clean CR, the same measure that's on the floor now. He did the right thing, and he went on the floor of the Senate, and he gave an impassioned speech of why we could never inflict all this pain on the American people. He meant it from his heart, and he was consistent in what he had done over his 44 years in Congress, always voting to fund the government. But when he did the right thing in March, he received an onslaught of criticism from the far left base and the Democrat Party. He almost lost his job. Many of you wrote about it. He was in jeopardy of not winning his next re-election. That's how serious it was. So Chuck Schumer got a bunch of consultants and staff in a back room, and they concocted a plan, a political stunt. And they determined right then that the next time there was a funding measure, no matter how meritorious and no matter how much it would cause pain to the American people, that he would vote against it. He would show a fight to President Trump so he could save his political skin. It's exactly what happened. He did this so he could prove to his base that he's showing a fight. And as a result of this charade, he has brought the Democrats to their lowest point in decades. Literally, the Democratic Party has its lowest approval rating. Democrats in Congress have their lowest approval rating ever in the history of polling. The labor unions, working class Americans, independents are fleeing his party, and they are coming to the party of common sense because they see us here trying to solve these problems. They see us here voting over and over and over to fund the government and give them their paychecks. And they see the Democrats dug in against it. And now Chuck Schumer is desperately trying to cling to power. Unfortunately, when you make decisions out of fear and political desperation, you have already lost control. And the new power center in the Democrat Party is one that should frighten every common sense American. The radical socialist wing is rising. It is led by people like AOC and Bernie Sanders. Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer know this. They're smart politicians in that way. They can feel the political winds, and they know that they have to continue to act belligerently in order to gain the favor of the far left. It's their own political survival that they have put in front of the needs of the entire country. Let me say that again. The Democrat leaders in the Senate and the House have put their own political survival in front of the needs of the American people. Exhibit A is Zohran Mamdani. New York City, America's largest city, the cradle of capitalism that has always been, is facing a real crisis right now. They've got a 34-year-old, unproven, untested socialist who looks to be the next mayor. He may well be elected. Mamdani winning New York City would be the biggest win for the Marxists, the socialists, in the history of this country. We have, to this point, in nearly 250 years, been able to hold off those kinds of ideas. We've been able to cling to the foundational principles of America, the ideas of individual freedom and limited government and the rule of law and peace through strength and fiscal responsibility and free markets and human dignity. All those things are in jeopardy when the Marxists take over. And it's the clearest sign yet that the Democrats' radical Marxist wing is winning the battle for control of their party. Look at where the energy is. This should be alarming to everyone around the country. Mamdani has, of course, called to defund the police, to abolish all prisons, to legalize prostitution. He lambasted the New York PD, the New York Police Department, as a racist system. And you might have seen, if you in the media are covering this, but there was a new video uncovered from 2023, just 2 years ago, and he said, quote, "We have to be clear, when the boot of the NYPD is on your neck, it's been laced by the IDF. Look, it's a unique talent to merge one's loathing for American law enforcement with their loathing for the Jewish people. But this guy's, he's managed to do it. New York is just the tip of the iceberg. It's not isolated to America's largest city. It's other cities as well. Look at Seattle, where the leading candidate for mayor is an open socialist. Look at Minneapolis, where the sitting socialist mayor is facing a challenge from his left flank. And look here in Congress, where we have our own wing of Marxist acolytes serving here. Amazingly, the media is criticizing Republicans for fixating on Mamdani. I read some of that yesterday. This socialist uprising is something that we have a responsibility to call out and sound the alarms. That's what elected representatives of the people are supposed to do, and we take that responsibility seriously. And obviously, Mamdani is a big issue here in the halls of Congress. Why? Because the second highest ranked Democrat in the country, Leader Jeffries, endorsed him. They're making Mamdani a mainstream Democrat now, and this party has left the people. Of course, the press wants us to ignore Mamdani. Here it's an embarrassment because most of the press is on the side of the Democrats. They don't want us to talk about that, but we have to. Because by endorsing Mamdani, Hakeem Jeffries has endorsed and co-owned his positions, his past statements, his Marxist playbook, and everything else that that guy espouses. And so, too, does every single House Democrat who will be inviting their leader, Jeffries, to their campaigns and to their districts next year. Every single one of them at every campaign stop should be asked, what do you think about Mamdani? What do you think about his positions? While House Democrats court Marxists in New York, Senate Democrats have chosen to shut down the government over a totally clean, nonpartisan CR. It's the first time in history, in the history of this country, that any party has done that, has chosen, had the audacity to shut the government down over a totally clean, nonpartisan funding measure. They're bowing to the demands of their far-left base, and no one can deny that. The facts are very clear, and the American people are intelligent. They understand what's happening here. We pray that the Democrats, at least a handful of centrists, if there are any moderates left in the Democrat Party in the Senate, we pray that they will come to their senses and they will do the right thing by the American people, that they will stop all the pain and that they will reopen the government. As I mentioned on Saturday, things are going to become very dire. There is one way out of this, the easy way, the obvious way, and that is for the Democrats to do their job and vote for the CR. Now, I mentioned we brought some of our good friends and colleagues here from New York to talk about the mess that the Democrats have created in the Empire State. Now, why are we focusing on New York? Because, again, it's a bellwether for the rest of the nation. If you're watching at home, you need to understand the dynamics of what's happening in New York, because you have to ensure that it doesn't happen in your city, in your town, in your state. And these folks are watching this, and they're fighting it. Our Republicans in New York are trying to hold the line. They're trying to defend what is great about this extraordinary and exceptional nation that we have. But they have a lot of headwinds. And they're here to share how this reckless shutdown is impacting everyday New Yorkers. And I'm delighted to bring up to the podium, before we get our leadership reports here, one of my dear friends and colleagues and classmates back from the 115th Congress when we came in as freshmen together, Congresswoman Claudia Tenney, who is from the 22nd District of New York. She does an extraordinary job here for her state and for the country. Claudia, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, and my colleagues. I actually hail from the 24th District, a little bit of we've had some redistricting in upstate New York a couple of times, but I just want to say good morning and thank you again to my colleagues for being here. This is really important, and I wish I could say that I am surprised by what we're witnessing, but this is exactly what happens when the Democratic Party surrenders to its most radical fringe. Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries lack the political courage to stand up to the Marxist, anti-Semitic, anti-law enforcement base led by Mamdani now, AOC, and Bernie Sanders. Schumer and Jeffries are both weak leaders from New York, and specifically New York City, where they have never had to face serious political opposition and have enjoyed nothing but glowing praise from their friends in the media. They are ill-suited to lead the Democratic Party at the national level, which is on dramatic display with each passing day of this tragic shutdown. They have traded true leadership for appeasement, responsibility for disorder, and principle for political survival. This shutdown is their choice. They've surrendered to radicals funded by dark money groups pushing anti-police, anti-Israel, anti-American garbage. Now the country is paying the price. I served with Hakeem Jeffries in the New York State Legislature. He sat right next to me. I've seen this playbook before, as have my colleagues in New York who also served in the legislature. It is the same corrupt Albany routine. Reward insiders, punish taxpayers, and blame everybody else. Today, it is something far worse. A movement run by socialist Marxist activists. I don't like to call them socialists, they're really Marxist. And extremist networks, and they have hijacked the Democratic Party. And as the Speaker pointed out, just look at Zohran Mamdani, a member of the State Assembly, by the way. He actually defeated a fairly liberal member of the Assembly, who is in a narrow election, but there he is in the State Assembly. He is the face of the new far-left coalition. And make no mistake about it, the new leader of the New York Democratic Party. His campaign is not grassroots. It's bankrolled by Soros money, radical clerics, and communists working together to push a Marxist agenda in America's largest city. Schumer and Jeffries will not stand up to this movement. We've seen this because, as the Speaker pointed out, They're terrified of it. They have built their political survival on appeasing the far left, and now our entire country is being held hostage by it. They cannot open the government without angering the radicals who radically run their party. The Democratic Party is now controlled, as I said, by the Marxist activists, dark money donors. This is not a grassroots effort. And an anti-American ideology is dominating this. And they would rather destroy the system than to lose power. And unfortunately, Leader Jeffries and Leader Schumer are just succumbing to this. New Yorkers are already paying the price, and we have been paying the price. From Albany's Medicaid for illegal scheme to Mondami's socialist city agenda, working families are being crushed under taxes, mandates, and ideology. And if we don't stand up, the damage will not end at the Hudson. It will reach every corner of upstate New York and across this country. We are here to fight for the men and women who build, farm, serve, and raise families across New York and our nation. They are the backbone of this nation, and they deserve a government that works for them, not the political insiders who have created this mess. So my message to Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries is simple. Stop playing games. Stop bowing to this mob and reopen our government. Pay our troops, fund essential services, and start putting American families, and especially in my case and my colleagues here, New York families first. And my message to New Yorkers is this: stand up, speak out, reject this radicalism that has taken over not just our city, but will take over our state. And I thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the moment.
Well, thank you, Claudia, and my other colleagues from New York for coming. And it's so sad to see what's happened to that great state of New York. But if you go back to November, when President Trump won an overwhelming victory to come back as president, defeating Kamala Harris, winning every one of the 7 swing states. In those months after, what you saw was this internal conflict within the Democrat Party. Who is the head of the Democrat Party? You heard it over and over. Some people are trying to raise their hand. A very, very weak bench of failed leaders, primarily governors from failed states, wanting to jump ahead of everybody else and claim the title. And yet, as the Democrat Party stayed that rudderless ship for months and months, because of this perfect storm, that the 2 top Democrat leaders in the House and Senate both hail from the state of New York. With the emergence now of Zohran Mamdani, you have seen Zohran Mamdani quickly become the new head of the Democrat Party nationally, because Chuck Schumer, who is the head Democrat in the Senate, and Hakeem Jeffries, who's the head Democrat in the House, both hailing from New York, are scared to death of that far-left extremist, radical, socialist, Marxist movement in their own party, starting in New York. And because Mamdani has taken off there, it is affecting real people everywhere in America. Devastating consequences. We've talked about it over and over. You know, the last few weeks, we talked about the pain, the suffering that Democrats were causing to especially federal workers, our troops, air traffic controllers, every other federal worker who wasn't getting paid. Some, President Trump found ways to get paid. Others, there weren't ways to do the same thing, but the president worked overtime. Look at what the president did working overtime, at least doing his job, in China this morning. A historic trade deal with China announced, where they resolved some issues on tariffs. Our soybean farmers going to be able to sell more of their products into China. Critical minerals that we'll be able to get. All of those things President Trump continues to do while Democrats want to try to spew chaos around the country. But the harm to families, as we've been talking about, while real, is unfortunately going to get worse. And we've been telegraphing this for weeks, pleading with our Democrat colleagues in the Senate. Just five Democrats need to get the courage to end the shutdown. And only they can do it. They know that. And what are those consequences? We've been talking for weeks. Coming this weekend, Saturday, 42 million SNAP beneficiaries will lose those benefits. Those cards are going to go to zero. When they go to the grocery store to try to put food on the table, there will be no money in those accounts. And what is Chuck Schumer going to tell those families? It's no longer hypothetical. It's no longer theoretical. It's real suffering and pain, and they know that. We've given you the quotes over and over these last few weeks. They admit they are causing suffering. They're using the American people for leverage, and they just don't care. But I think they're going to start hearing more and more from people. There's some people we've been hearing from. The National Veteran Advocate, his retired U.S. Army Sergeant Eric Donahoe, said this, quote, "The decision to vote against advancing the CR is now causing financial harm to families who serve this country." He went on to say, quote, "When I spoke with Democratic staffers that I know they called this shutdown a political opportunity. They think the more Americans hurt, the more power they gain. They even bragged about it," Donahoe said. Quote, "This isn't a headline to us. It's rent, it's groceries, it's mental health, it's stability." And of course, you've heard just a few days ago, we had the National Air Traffic Controllers Association and the American Federation of Government Employees demanding that Democrats pass the clean CR. More and more, you're seeing this growing chorus of people from all corners, including Democrat corners, telling their own party leaders, stop this madness, end the madness, and vote to open the government. But again, this weekend, it gets even more painful, more suffering that they will impose if they keep this madness up. And so I'm going to try to find 5 Democrat senators. It's all we need is 5. So let's start with John Ossoff in Georgia. Starting this weekend, over 1.3 million enrollees in SNAP in his home state of Georgia lose their benefits. 1.3 million, Senator. What are you going to tell those families if you vote no today? If you vote to take their food away this weekend? That's what your vote means today. 109,000 federal workers in his state of Georgia. Of course, the largest airport in America is in his home state of Georgia, and they're already experiencing flight delays in Atlanta. 231,000 women, infant, and children will lose their benefits in Senator Ossoff's home state of Georgia if he votes no today. Think about them when you're casting that vote. Senator Warner in Virginia, 825,000 SNAP enrollees in his home state of Virginia. 189,000 federal workers. Don't come up here and give some speech lamenting about the hardships those people are facing when you're the one voting to impose those hardships. You can stop that today by voting yes. 107,000 women, infant, and children will lose their benefits in Virginia if Senator Warner votes no. Tina Smith in Minnesota, 452,000 enrollees in the SNAP program, 33,000 federal workers, and 101,000 women, infant, and children in Minnesota will lose their benefits if Tina Smith votes no today. Gary Peters in Michigan, over 1.4 million enrollees in SNAP. No food stamp benefits this weekend to 1.4 million Michiganders. 56,000 federal workers, 189,000 women, infant, and children will go without food this weekend in Michigan if Senator Peters votes no. Senator Sheehan in New Hampshire, 76,000 enrollees in SNAP, 9,000 federal workers, and 12,000 women, infant, and children will go hungry in New Hampshire if Senator Sheehan votes no. I could go on with more and more of these. All we need is 5. That's 5 right there. If they get the courage, they don't have to impose that pain on families. But the only way this suffering is prevented is if they come to their senses and vote yes. We all know the math. We all know what's needed. But it's not just math. It's millions and millions of families across this country that will truly suffer and go without food if they vote no today. It's a straightforward vote. We've all voted yes and passed it through the House over a month ago. End the madness and pass this bill. Our whip, Tom Emmer.
We are officially 30 days into the Democrats' needless government shutdown. 30 days that millions of federal workers have gone without a paycheck. 30 days that critical telehealth services and in-home hospital care programs have been put on pause for the vulnerable Americans who need it most. 30 days that our national security has been put at risk due to staffing shortages. Not to mention the SNAP benefits that you've heard our leader go through in detail that will be cut off for more than 40 million low-income Americans if the Democrats fail to reopen the government before Saturday. It's been 30 days of pure obstruction from Democrat lawmakers who care more about appeasing the radical Mamdani and Omar Fata wing of their party than reopening the government for the people they were elected to serve. Americans are hurting. Families are turning to food banks. Major airports are issuing ground stops. But the Democrats don't care. In fact, they've orchestrated this chaos by refusing to support our nonpartisan government funding bill 14 times now. And for what? So that they can kowtow to the people like Kami. And I will just say to my great friend and colleague, Claudia Tenney, socialists are now the moderates in my grandfather's Democrat Party. These are communists and Marxists. They are kowtowing to the people like Kami Mamdani ahead of the election. People are struggling in the meantime to put food on the table, and the Democrats are too busy playing politics to do anything about it. It's disgusting, and it needs to end. I say it every day when we do this. Remember, all we need is 5 Senate Democrats to come to their senses, break ranks with Chuck Schumer, support our clean CR, and reopen the government. It's past time for Democrats in Congress to get serious and do their jobs for the people they were elected to serve, not for the communist mayoral candidate in New York City, our conference chair.
Thank you. Kami Mamdani, that might stick. That might stick. Well, good. Yeah, the truth hurts, right? Works. All right. Well, this Saturday, SNAP benefits run out for 42 million Americans. 42 million Americans, the SNAP benefits will run out. Let me say it one more time and let it sink in. 42 million families, including thousands in my home state of Michigan, could lose the ability to put food on the table for their families. Why? Because Democrats choose to use their pain and their hunger as leverage. Leverage for more wasteful spending, leverage to satisfy their radical base. And what are Republicans doing? Republicans did their job and are going to continue to do our job. We voted for a clean, responsible bill to keep the government open and fully fund SNAP. So let me be very clear. Republicans voted to continue funding for SNAP and continue to have families have the ability to feed their families. Democrats voted to take food off the table and voted to discontinue SNAP benefits. It is that simple. Democrats voted to shut it down, and they voted to deny food assistance to 42 million Americans. And they voted that way more than a dozen times. Just so y'all didn't get confused, they wanted to make sure that they rubbed it in your face more than a dozen times that they wanted to stop the SNAP benefits. Not just once, not just twice, they wanted to make doggone sure you knew they voted more than a dozen times to kill the SNAP benefits, to take food off your table. Just so you're clear. And let's remember, they did it. And let's make sure that we don't forget, and let's make sure we remind them who voted to keep food on the table and who voted to take food off the table. Because at some point in time, they're going to reverse what they're talking about and do what they normally do, and that's try and blame us. But let's hold them accountable for once to the votes that they've taken. I can assure you I will. I met one of these recipients last weekend while I was volunteering at a food bank in St. Clair County. His name was Jim. Jim's wife is a teacher, and he's a retired auto worker. They rely on SNAP to help cover the cost of groceries. Jim waited in line for more than 3 hours because he knows he won't be getting his benefits. That's what he told me. But you know what he told me? I thought this was very insightful. He told me, thank you. He told me, thank you for all you're doing to keep the government open. He also told me to please talk to our senators and ask them, since they voted and they campaigned on being moderates and reaching across the aisle, to fulfill their campaign promises and stop using families like Jim as leverage and care about the people that they were elected to represent. I also spoke with a woman who recently lost her husband. She's now raising her grandkids and told me she's never needed help before, but now she's struggling to afford groceries. These are real people struggling, real people that Republicans are actually fighting for, and real people that I am fighting for. Jim is not leverage. Jim is a person with a family to feed. Open up the government and stop using Jim and his family as leverage to kowtow to your radical political base. Do what you know is right and what you have said is right, and open up the government. A farmer back home once told me, when you're not hungry, you have a lot of problems. When you're hungry, you have one. Right now, families on SNAP have a problem. And that problem should never, ever be used as political leverage. So Republicans, we're going to keep on working and we're going to keep on fighting. And you know what? We will keep showing up. And while we keep demanding that Democrats stop using suffering Americans as pawns in their political games, I implore my two senators, do what you said you were going to do. Do what you said that you are. You've reached across the aisle. You're moderates. You care about people. Well, show that in your actions and vote for a clean CR for families like Jim who you represent. Please, they are counting on you. And every no vote means that you are keeping food from their table. So please, it is time to pass the clean CR and actually put the people who you represent, Americans, first. Thank you.
We'll take a few questions. I just want to thank again our colleagues from New York, LaLota and Lawler, Garbarino, Langworthy, and Tenney. It's a difficult job to hold the line in that state, but they do it very, very well, and we're grateful they're there, and that there are so many common sense New Yorkers who still believe in freedom and in the greatness of America, and they keep sending us patriots like this to do the job. So we'll take a few questions. Yes, sir. Second row.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. During the last shutdown in 2019, it was the first Trump administration, and they made sure that in the second month of the shutdown, SNAP benefits would go out. They had them sent early. Why do you think they shouldn't do that this time?
Well, the president, this administration, has done exactly what he did in the first term, and that is bend over backwards to make sure that we mitigate the harm. We explained here yesterday that any administration in a shutdown scenario has figuratively a control panel of pain dials. In the Obama administration, 2013, when they shut it down, they turned all the dials to 10. They wanted it to hurt, and so remember, famously, they put the yellow crime tape around the World War II memorial and prevented aging veterans from going and visiting these landmarks. They made it hurt. President Trump has done exactly the opposite. I mean, he's done everything he can. He's ordered all of his cabinet secretaries to mitigate the harm. So, for example, as you know, with WIC funding, they found a way to fund that with tariff revenue. We found a way to pay the troops once already in October, hopefully at the end of this month, by moving money around. But it's very difficult to do. Those are not inexhaustible funds. When it comes to SNAP, some of the Democrats have argued that you can use this contingency fund, but the truth is there's no legal mechanism to do it. Unlike with WIC funding that was attached to a 1930s era statute that was related to tariff funds because it was related to nutrition and food coming over the border, there's no such legal avenue to give SNAP funding now. It doesn't exist. The problem is the contingency and the authority to do that was voted down in the CR when the Democrats themselves did it. So the president has lamented this. He has informed USDA and everybody, do as best you can, but the money doesn't exist to do it.
So just to let you know, there's some developments happening like right now. As I mentioned earlier, that some judge would probably try to ride to the rescue and demand that the money comes from somewhere. And so after they're done with this press conference, I'm going to show you what a judge has just done a few minutes ago.
Simplest way to end the pain and the simplest way to make this stop is for the Democrats to do the obvious and right thing and vote for the nonpartisan funding measure so that we can turn everything back on. Then we will get back here, and then we will debate all these other extraneous issues. But right now, the first job of the government is to keep it in operation and take care of the people who depend upon all these services we've articulated today. It's nonsense, and it has to end, and you should be asking them the tough questions, why they're willing to inflict this pain on the people for their partisan political purposes. Yes, ma'am. ACA subsidy working group? Look, I'm not surprised that the conversations are turning up in earnest. I mean, when you're talking about the handful of centrists and moderates that are there, they feel the pressure of this. You have all the major unions now coming out, as we've noted, demanding that they do the right thing and get the paychecks flowing again. You have flights being delayed and canceled. It harms people on their nutrition and their food and everything else. And so this is not a surprise to us. We welcome them doing the right thing, but again, we don't have anything to negotiate because we didn't put any partisan Republican priorities on the CR at all. I don't have anything I can pull off of it to make it more palatable for them. So our urge and our plea to them is just do the darn right thing and open the government. And then we'll figure all the rest of these things out. We were always scheduled. We were always planning to have the debate about the COVID-era subsidies and all these other issues in October, November, December. The COVID-era subsidies don't expire until the end of December. There are all sorts of discussions going on about that, all kinds of ideas. I could give you dozens of them that have been collected just in the House Republican Conference. There needs to be massive reform. There need to be income caps. There needs to be the elimination of fraud, waste, and abuse in that program, which we think is rife in it, and many other things. So there's informal working groups going on as we speak. There's discussions being had amongst all the members. But we've got to get the lights turned back on here and get the services provided to the people so that we can come here and do the rest of the legislative job. Yes, ma'am.
Would you be willing to fund part of the government for the full year, as some of the senators are discussing, without a CR to open?
These rifle shot bills that you keep hearing about deviates from the goal. We have one singular purpose, and that is to reopen and fund the entire government. The Democrats do not get to shut down the government and then make the decision on who's more important than the other and which little thing they want to fund to relieve their own political pain. We have one purpose, and that is turn this thing back on. And all those other efforts are deviations in its political games. They're trying to cover their own tails now because they know they have inflicted this pain. I'm going to remind you again 14 times. I bring my chart in every day. I'll bring it back tomorrow because I want everybody to remember. Republicans have voted 14 times to fund the government, and the Democrats have voted 14 times to close it. They are imposing the pain, and now they're feeling a little pain themselves because people are starting to let them hear about it. They better do the right thing. That's all we can say. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Speaker, you mentioned today that the Senate's going to vote for the 15th time, and the Democrats are supposed to. The Senate's actually not voting today on the CR to fund the government. Do you agree with Leader Green's decision to let Democrats sit with this over the weekend? They're not voting today on the CR, so SNAP benefits are are going to lapse. They're not taking that vote today.
Well, Leader Thune was pretty upset yesterday. We've all seen the video. Mad John on the floor, and it's appropriate. When we come in here and do these briefings, I can empathize with him because we're happy warriors. I like to come in and have a good time in press conferences and tell you good news and all of that. But this feels very much like in my state, Louisiana, is a hurricane state. It's like giving a briefing during a hurricane, a Cat 5 hurricane. Right before it hits shores, we put the sandbags around our homes and we board up the windows and we do everything we can to prepare, but we know the real pain is about to hit. And we feel helpless in doing anything about it. And that's the same emotion and that we feel here at the podium and when we're on the floor. And Leader Thune let him have it yesterday because they were trying to play games, and we're just fed up with it. He's a very even-tempered, calm guy. I mean, I try to maintain the same demeanor, but it's infuriating to us. I'm not going to second guess his decisions on when they schedule the votes each time, but he's probably about had it with their nonsense. And when they tell him and they thumb their nose at him and give him, and say other things that they like to drop the F-bomb now for fun, for emphasis apparently. When they tell him those things, he probably recognizes it's a futile effort. He realizes they're dug in, they don't care. They're more afraid of the Marxist, socialist, far left in the party than they are the harm that they're going to cause in the American people. That's a fact, and you need to make them try to refute that because they can't. I'm grateful again for our New York colleagues for holding their ground and standing guard as they do and for being here. Thank you all so much.
You see, one of the problems that we're having is that this media, as you would imagine, continues to carry water for the Democrats. They don't tell the truth. They never tell the truth. And if they did, this thing would probably end pretty quickly. If they just came out on television and said, there is nothing to negotiate. That's all they would have to say. There's nothing that's been put in. And the Democrats are doing all this stuff because, as I've mentioned before, their only chance at this point, the only thing they have going for them are judges. And that's even for a short period of time. The long time, when they get to the appellate court in SCOTUS, they get spanked. So they try to get these little stupid judges to come in and play president. And to that regard, let me show you what just happened a little while ago. I told you this was coming.
CNN's Renee Marsh and Danny Freeman are following all of this for us. Renee, what more is the judge saying in this effort to keep SNAP money flowing?
Right. So there's this pot of more than $5 billion in emergency funds just sitting at the USDA. And the Trump administration said in court today that the agency was prohibited from tapping into those emergency funds to keep the assistance benefits flowing to those 42 million Americans who.
All right. So first, she talks about it. This $5 billion is just sitting there, just waiting. It's for emergencies. Just like they did with the strategic oil reserves, and they just kept throwing oil out, just trying to make favor. And so now they're suing to use the reserves. Reserves are what they are. It's sort of like your savings account. If you use the money in your savings account for your waiting for a rainy day, then if a rainy day comes, you got nothing left. And the Democrats don't care. Please save us from this. I wanted to show you this. I pulled this from Grok Answer, and it's pretty interesting. It says, the USDA SNAP contingency reserve, just a contingency reserve, holds approximately $5 billion. If they use it for the November benefits, it could cover, only going to cover about 63% of the estimated $8 billion monthly total based on 42 million recipients averaging $190 per person. This partial funding might avert immediate disruptions for some, but would deplete reserves meant for disasters per administration concerns. So even if a judge says you got to spend this $5 billion, the reserves, you got to get rid of this $5 billion and give it out. How do you turn into King Solomon at this point and decide who gets what? There's still not enough. 37% of the people on SNAP, there's no money for them. So as you're a Democrat, you lose either way. Both ways. You're going to deplete the reserves, And you're not even going to fund everything, because what's going to happen is 37% of the people who are expecting some money, they're not going to get it. And then you're even in a worse situation because you got no money for Christmas. And that Christmas would fall after that 61 days. And so there's not even a judge that can help you at that point, because once you have to come and sign the continuing resolution, eventually they're going to have to. Well, we already know what's in it, and what's in it is those people aren't getting any money. So now you've got them in quite a quandary right now. There's not enough money.
Rely on it. The Trump administration's lawyers also said that the agency didn't want to use those funds. And the judge really pressed them pretty hard on this, asking where in the law does it prohibit using these funds to prevent the suspension of SNAP benefits, which, by the way, SNAP benefits have never been suspended or reduced before. But the administration's lawyers struggled to really give a clear and even convincing reason for.
Now, this is weird because you're supposed to be a court reporter and you're given a completely biased report, but just listen to what she says anyway.
Why they needed to suspend these benefits. The judge at one point was so confused by the administration's arguments that she said, quote, Congress has put money in an emergency fund for an emergency, and it's hard for me to understand how this isn't an emergency when there's no money and a lot of people are needing their SNAP benefits. And that.
Notice the name. Not that I'm pointing anything. I'm not giving any racist, but this is one of those judges who, again, is going to try interpret what an emergency really is. I don't think a judge's position is to tell somebody what an emergency is, but she's going to. She's going to say, pay who you can. It's coming.
Really was a key moment. The judge indicated that she may ask the agency to explore reducing benefits because of the dwindling amount of available funds, as opposed to stopping the benefits altogether.
Who's going to pick? The judge is talking about maybe reducing the benefits instead of stopping the benefits. And I want to know, Miss Judge, how do you, you can't have it. You get some. All right, instead of everybody getting what they usually get, we're going to reduce everybody's. Who's going to do all that, Your Honor? Who's going to pick and choose who gets what? Who's going to reduce it? What are you going to say? Well, reduce everybody by 50% so everybody gets a little bit. Oh, this has turned into a comedy of errors.
That would be complicated because the USDA would have to recalculate how much specific states will get. Then states will have to recalculate how much individuals will get. But here's the bottom line. Come November 1st, the SNAP benefits will not be available for the people who rely on them. The judge says that she's going to be working quickly to come up with an emergency decision, but she clearly was not buying the Trump administration's argument that they had no choice other than to stop these benefits during the shutdown.
Thank you so much for that report, Renee. Let's go now to Danny Freeman.
Okay, it is Thursday at 4:17. So if she works through the night and comes up tomorrow on a Friday and says, okay, before November 1st, what I need you to do is I need you to go back in and recalculate all these different people, the 42 million people. I want you to recalculate how we can spread this out among 42 million people. At which point, it's Friday. I'm out, Judge. You can't make people go back to work. Who's gonna be doing the calculations? How are they gonna pick? How are they gonna pick what state? All before the 1st? You expect all? They waited and they waited and they waited. Now their backs are up against the wall, and they're probably gonna get this judge to give a ruling tonight or tomorrow and say fix it somehow. And then you expect people in the USDA, in the government, to go back into work and count all this money, get it dispersed, put it in people's accounts before November 1st. I don't even have enough popcorn to buy and watch what's about to happen. Now they're frantically figuring out who and where and how much, and don't let don't let some white people or some newcomers get money and then the other ones don't get none. Oh, wait till they find out. They go to the store and they see somebody going, hey, got mine, and they didn't get theirs. Oh, this is, just go to the grocery store now and avoid it. Just go now and make sure you're nowhere near a grocery store over the next 2 days. Maybe next 3 days. Be grocery store free until like Monday. Because all hell might break loose. I just saw a video where a guy at Walmart got beat up because he tried to steal something. All hell is about to break loose. All right, so I got to hurry up here. Got to catch my ride to the game here shortly. So let me get right into J.D. Vance in last night. We're going to watch that. I'm only going to show you the question and answer part because it's very interesting. J.D. Vance basically stepped into Charlie Kirk's shoes last night and decided to do exactly what Charlie Kirk would do. He would take questions from the audience. Some of the questions are crazy, but nonetheless, he answers every single one. There's one that caught me last night where this girl steps up and she asks like a 10-point question, expecting the vice president to spend like an hour. He's like, enough. But let's jump into that. And by the way, I'm serious. Don't do the grocery store.
What we're going to do next is actually take some questions. And I remember one of my favorite things about Charlie, not that there aren't going to be some questioners who agree with me, but if you disagree with me, I would ask that you come to the front of the line because we want to talk to people we agree with. We also want to hear from people we disagree with. It is hard for me to see because the spotlights are very bright, but whoever's in line, go ahead and ask your question. Oh, there we go. Okay, now I can see you. How you doing?
Hi, Mr. Vice President. Thank you so much for being here. My name's Lucy. And I'm Ellie, and we're with the Turning Point chapter for this question.
Thank you, guys.
Can you tell us how your faith helps you in your role as Vice President?
Well, I appreciate that. That is a very good question, and this is another way in which Charlie has affected my life. I would say that I grew up, again, in a generation where even if people had very deep personal faith, they didn't talk about their faith a whole lot. And I grew up in a country where you just didn't hear political leaders talk about their faith. But the reason why I try to be the best husband I can be, the best father I can be, the reason why I care so much about all the issues that we're going to talk about is because I believe that I've been placed in this position for a brief period of time to do the most amount of good for God and for the country that I love so much. And that's the most important way that my faith influences me is we all get a limited opportunity to make a difference. And if you believe as we believe, you believe that God, you believe that Jesus Christ has a plan. And sometimes we don't understand that plan. By the way, one way I don't understand that plan is why my friend lost his life 6 weeks ago. Sometimes I get pissed off about that. But what I remind myself is that there is a deeper rhythm, that Jesus Christ is the author of the fate of human history, and we are charged to do everything that we can to effectuate that vision, to make our country a more virtuous place, a more prosperous place where people can raise a family and not be persecuted for their faith, but teach their children their faith. That recognition that all of us have a duty, and I have two very important duties as Vice President of the United States, to the American people and to God, and that's the most important influence my faith has on me. Thank you.
I understand your view on illegal immigration is it should be a top priority, strengthening our southern borders and fighting the massive drug trafficking that's taken place while securing jobs for the working class Americans. Also, deporting every single person who's invaded our country illegally, which I 100% agree on. My question to you is, what is your view on legal immigration? Personally, I have a girlfriend who's studying in America off a visa. Our hope is eventually getting a green card. So what is your view on legal immigration? Should we reduce it? Also, what is your plan for a merit-based system?
Yes, sir. Well, I appreciate the question. And look, my honest view is that right now, America, thanks in part to the Biden border invasion, but also thanks in part to a lot of bad immigration policy, right now we have let in too many immigrants into the United States of America. That is just a fundamental reality. Now, Now, look, legal immigration is complicated because we let in about 1 million legal immigrants into the United States of America every single year, and I think the evidence is pretty clear that a lot of those immigrants are actually undercutting the wages of American workers. It's one of the reasons why the President of the United States and a lot of us in the administration have encouraged H-1B reform, because if you look at the H-1B visa, what it's supposed to be is that you have a super genius who's studying at an American university, who's working at a great company. You want that super genius to stay in the United States of America and not go somewhere else. What it's actually used to do is hire an accountant at a 50% discount to an American citizen. I don't think that we should be hiring accountants from foreign countries when we've got accountants right here in the United States that would love to work for a good wage. Now, you asked about, I think, your girlfriend, you said, and I obviously don't know the full details about your situation, but my view is, look, there are people who want to come to the United States of America, and some of them, I'm sure, can enrich the United States of America by coming here, but we have got to get our overall numbers way, way down. Too many people have come into the United States of America. I am married to the daughter of immigrants who came to the United States in the 1980s. I do believe that many immigrants do in fact enrich the United States of America. But here's the problem. We don't even know how many illegal aliens we have. We don't even know. The best guess is probably 25, 30 million people. I've heard estimates as high as 50 million. When something like that happens, you've got to allow your own society to cohere a little bit, to build a sense of common identity, for all the newcomers to assimilate, the ones who are going to stay, to assimilate into American culture. Until you do that, you've got to be careful about any additional immigration, in my view. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Hello, I have a question about Israel and Trump's policy towards it. Do you think it's a conflict of interest for Miriam Adelson, an Israeli donor, to give millions of dollars to his campaign and then Trump have pro-Israeli policies?
Well, if you're asking, do I think the President of the United States has a conflict of interest? No, I do not, because I know how the President of the United States makes his decisions, and I see it behind the scenes. Now, as the President himself has said, Miriam Adelson, who, by the way, I know, and I have a very good relationship with her, she is very clear about the fact. She doesn't hide the fact that she really loves Israel, and that is part of what motivates her political giving. That is a reality. At the same time, the President of the United States is America first through and through. And let me give you just a couple of examples of this. Number one, we have heard from some pro-Israel voices, some people who really love the state of Israel, that they don't want us to have a relationship with certain Middle Eastern countries. Well, the President, his attitude is, we need to build relationships with any country where we have shared interests, and he's going to do it if it's in the interest of the American people, and he's done exactly that. Number two, there were people, and I remember this criticism of the President of the United States, I just raised it in the context of a conversation that I had with Charlie. I remember when people said that the President of the United States was going to get us into a multi-100,000 troop regime change war for Israel. This was 4 months ago, this was 6 months ago. Now, the people who accuse the President of the United States of wanting to get us into a regime change war for Israel, I wonder if they stepped back and said, you know what, we were wrong about that. Because the President of the United States did not want to get us into a regime change war for any other country. He wanted to knock out a nuclear facility and get everybody back home, and that's exactly what he did. So I understand there's some frustrations out there, but I think the President of the United States, more than any president of my lifetime, is willing to stand up to anybody if he thinks it puts the interests of the American people first. Thank you.
Hello, Vice President Vance.
How you doing?
Good. I have a question. Do you condone large private corporations such as Palantir hoarding data caches on U.S. citizens?
No, I don't condone it. And here's the thing. So I get asked about Palantir a lot because there's this internet meme out there that somehow I am super in bed with Palantir. And here's the thing that I'd say about this. Palantir is a private company. They sometimes do a useful service, and sometimes they're going to do things that we don't like. You should be demanding that your representatives do two things when it comes to Palantir or when it comes to any other technology company. Number one, protecting your data. What's going on with artificial intelligence is going to mean that there are massive inducements to steal your data, to harvest it, and to use it against you to sell digital advertisements. That is not what I believe in, and I've been fighting against it, whether it's Palantir or any other technology company, literally before I ran for office. When I ran for office, I was criticized by Republicans in my Republican Senate primary because I was talking then about Google and Facebook harvesting our data. It's unacceptable. I don't care who does it. I don't want them to do it. Number two, and this is also very important, what's going on with artificial intelligence, we got to be worried about large-scale surveillance, okay? Everything. You asked about Palantir. Do you know that every time you make a credit card transaction, the credit card companies are collecting data on how you spend your money? Do you know that every time you linger over a link on the internet for more than a half second, the search engines are collecting data on you so that they can sell you advertisements? One of the biggest questions for American policy over the next 10 years is how to ensure that you are a sovereign citizen. And you cannot be a sovereign citizen if any private corporation or any government can steal something from you that belongs to you.
Hey, just to let you know, what he just said is 100% true. It is absolutely true. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. You know why I know it's true? I've done it. I've done it, and I work for big major companies. Big companies pay a lot of money for me to run ads based upon visitations to different sites. I've told you many times, I can go and target people by zip code, by street, by the credit card, whether it's MasterCard or American Express. Absolutely what he said is true.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Vice President J.D. Vance, good evening. My question is, the Republican Party, they stand for the right to bear arms. A lot of things the founding fathers really made a priority.
Sure.
And I feel as if requiring Christianity in public schools goes against the founding fathers' wish of freedom of religion. What do you think about that?
Well, I guess, who is saying that we require Christianity in public schools?
Just from what I've seen on the media and the news, it seems like the Trump administration had wanted to make praying in schools and Christian values incorporated.
Well, look, I think Christian values are a good thing, and I'll talk to you about why I think that's a good thing. But that's separate from forcing people to pray, which I don't think that anybody, certainly no Christian that I know, would ever support or ever endorse. And let me just say something generally about all the people. I see there's a big line, and I hope I can get to everybody's question. I remember when I was a sophomore in high school, I went to an event at my church, which was a book signing with Oliver North and Sean Hannity, the Fox News host. And this was back before, this was, I guess, 25 years ago. And so neither of these guys was maybe as big as they are today. And I remember standing in line, and I'm about to say hello to Oliver North and Sean Hannity. And I remember thinking to myself, I was so nervous. All I need to do is shake my hand, or shake their hand, give them a firm handshake, and tell them my name. That's what I'm thinking. Firm handshake, tell them my name. Firm handshake, tell them my name. And I get to the front of the line, and Sean Hannity looks at me, and he says, "How are you doing?" And I totally panic, and I go, JD. Because I had rehearsed shaking and saying my name. My point is, I admire your guys' courage, and please don't be nervous. If you need to work through a question, think about it, speak it. We're all here to have a nice conversation, and we're all supportive of it. Here's the thing when you talk about forcing, I'm going to answer your question, of forcing Christianity, forcing people to pray. There's a liberal idea out there that I think is wrong, and that's that liberalism is the source of freedom of religion. And actually, if you go back to the original founding documents of the United States of America, if you go back to the Anglo-legal tradition well before there was ever a United States of America, what you find is that freedom of religion is actually a Christian concept. And the reason it's a Christian concept is very simple. Because Christianity, Imago Dei, the idea that we are all made in the image of our Creator, means that we must respect the free will of every single person. Now, part of that is you have a conversation with people. Having free will doesn't mean that you're not allowed to encourage somebody, that you're not allowed to talk to somebody about your faith, that you're not allowed to talk about certain values in school. When our founders talked about freedom of religion, they didn't mean you weren't allowed to say a Christian prayer in a public school or that you weren't allowed to talk about Jesus Christ in a public forum. They just meant that nobody could force you to profess the Christian faith. That had to come from your own free will. And I believe that, and I think every Christian who I've ever spoken to believes that the source is the Christian, the source of your faith, the Christian understanding must be your own free will. But here's the thing about Christian values. There are a lot of Christian values out there that I think that we've just sort of assumed and we've in fact taken for granted. Christian values are the idea that you should respect every single person as an individual, whatever the color of their skin, created in the image of God. That's a Christian concept. And in fact, it was a Christian empire, Great Britain, that abolished slavery to begin with. The idea that we should eliminate child sacrifice. What did the Christian settlers find when they came to the New World? They found a lot of civilizations that were murdering babies in weird religious rituals. It was Christianity that said we don't kill children just because they're somehow inconvenient to people. A lot of the things, human rights, the very idea that human beings have rights are a Christian concept. And so I'd ask you, my assumption based on the question is that you're skeptical of Christianity, or at least of certain public professions of Christianity. One of my favorite Bible verses is, "By your fruits ye shall know them." And I think that the fruits of the Christian faith are the most moral, the most just, and the most prosperous civilization in history. I make no apologies for believing that Christianity is the pathway to God. I make no apologies for thinking that Christian values are an important foundation of this country, but I'm not going to force you to believe in anything, because that's not what God wants, and that's not what I want either.
So,
go ahead.
So the school system, do you agree that there should be Christian implementation, or do you think that school system should be neutral and be focused on science, literature, reading, writing, arithmetic?
Well, I reject the idea that anything is purely neutral. Okay, there are, for example, let's take a basic scientific fact, and this is a little spicy. I'm not trying to make this too controversial, but take the basic scientific fact of, can you take a pill to change your biological gender? Okay? Now that's something that 15 years ago, quite literally, every single scientist in the Western world would have said, absolutely not, that's crazy, and now people will. I think the premise of your question, I don't totally share it, because I don't think perfect neutrality is possible. What is it? You talk about history. Was Christopher Columbus a great explorer, or was he a guy who committed genocide against the native populations? These debates, I'm happy to have them, but I reject the idea that there are truly neutral debates. Anybody who's telling you their view is neutral likely has an agenda to sell you, and I'm at least honest about the fact that I think the Christian foundation of this country is a good thing. Next.
Next. Wow, we are so lucky to have a president like J.D. Vance. I mean, this guy is sharp. He can deliver it on the moment. Blind questions, bam, awesome.
Is possible. What is it? You talk about history. Was Christopher Columbus a great explorer, or was he a guy who committed genocide against the native?
That was me. Sorry, I got exuberant listening to what he had to say. I just thought there was. Now this one I want to set up. This is the woman who comes on. Young college girl. And you got to hear this question. She tries to use J.D. Vance's personal life against him. If you haven't seen it, just listen. And she tries to give him like a 10-part question. He's like, you gonna let me answer? Wait till you see this. And if you've seen it already, I want to know what your comments are at the way he handles her.
Hello, Mr. Vice President. Thank you so much for giving this opportunity to talk here today. I did not agree with many of the things that you said right ahead of this, but I don't think that's my point to discuss here. What I want to ask is, you are married to a woman who is not Christian. In her Wikipedia, I mean, I just looked that up. I wanted to know what her faith was. I didn't know this before, but she still calls herself Hindu. You are raising three kids in interracial, cultural, racial, religious household. How are you maintaining, or how are you teaching your kids not to keep your religion ahead of their mother's religion? Or how are you teaching them that your kind, they're that kind who got here just few years or few decades ago is different or is better than your mom's kind who got here just a generation before? How are you balancing that? And when you talk about too many immigrants here, when did you guys decide that number? Why did you sell us a dream? You made us spend our youth, our wealth in this country and gave us a dream. You don't owe us anything. We have worked hard for it. Then how can you as a vice president stand there and say that we have too many of them now and we are going to take them out to people who are here rightfully so by paying the money that you guys asked us? You gave us the path, and now how can you stop it and tell us we don't belong here anymore? And one more thing, one more thing.
Sure.
Do you have to
There's
be...
a lot there. I don't know if I'm going to remember all this, but I will try.
I'm sorry. I had to say all of this, and please take it with due... I'm saying all of this with due respect.
Go ahead. Please.
I have no intention of causing a scene here or anything, but...
We're not close to causing a scene, don't worry.
But we talked about Christianity, all of this. I'm not even Christian, and I'm here standing to show support. Why are we making Christianity one of the major things that you have to have in common to be one of you guys, to show that I love America just as much as you do? Why is that still a question? Why do I have to be a Christian?
Okay. All right, so some of you may be watching this and going, get this idiot away. I'm just the opposite, and I'm so glad that J.D. Vance is the vice president who's taking this question. And there's one reason why I love the fact that she did this. The fact of the matter is she's having a discussion. It's giving him an opportunity to speak to her. What she takes away from his answer is going to be up to her, but you can tell it's been bubbling up inside of her, and nobody has been able to give her this answer. This young woman, I feel, is on the precipice of understanding what we're all about. If she doesn't like it, if she doesn't like the answer, that's going to be up to her. But she's able to talk to the Vice President of the United States with something that's really paining her. And I applaud her for asking, and I definitely applaud J.D. Vance for his answer.
So there was a lot there, and I'm going to try to respond to as much of it as I can. So on the question of immigration, so first of all, I can believe that we should have lower immigration levels, but if the United States passed a law and made a promise to somebody, the United States, of course, has to honor that promise. Nobody's talking about that. I'm talking about people who came in violation of the laws of the United States of America, and I'm talking about in the future reducing the number of people. Sorry, what?
May I continue on that? Because when you just said you are not stopping with the people who came here legally, right? But you are pushing out policies that hurt us. And these policies are not even solving the problems. These policies are just creating chaos.
Ma'am. Okay, so again, I'm gonna finish answering the question, and then if I've answered all 9 of your questions in less than 15 minutes, then we can keep on going. We got to have a little fun, right? So here's the thing. I can believe that the United States should lower its levels of immigration in the future, while also respecting that there are people who have come here through lawful immigration pathways that have contributed to the country. But just because one person or 10 people or 100 people came in legally and contributed to the United States of America, does that mean that we're thereby committed to let in 1 million or 10 million or 100 million people a year in the future? No, that's not right. We cannot have, I'll go and finish. We cannot have an immigration policy where what was good for the country 50 or 60 years ago binds the country inevitably for the future. There's too many people who want to come to the United States of America, and my job as Vice President is not to look out for the interests of the whole world. It's to look out for the people of the United States. Now, you asked a personal question about our interfaith household. And yes, my wife did not grow up Christian. I think it's fair to say that she grew up in a Hindu family, but not in a particularly religious family in either direction. In fact, when I met my wife, we were both, I would consider myself an agnostic or an atheist, and that's what I think she would have considered herself as well. You know, everybody has to come to their own arrangement here. The way that we've come to our arrangement is she's my best friend. We talk to each other about this stuff. So we decided to raise our kids Christian. Our two oldest kids who go to school, they go to a Christian school. Our 8-year-old did his first communion about a year ago. That's the way that we have come to our arrangement. But, thank you. My 8-year-old was also very proud of his first communion. Thank you, guys. I'll tell him that Ole Miss wishes him the best. But I think everybody has to have this own conversation when you're in a marriage. I mean, it's true for friends of mine who are in Protestant and Catholic marriages, friends of mine who are in, atheist and Christian marriages. You just got to talk to the only advice I can give is you just got to talk to the person that God has put you with, and you've got to make those decisions as a family unit. For us, it works out. Now, most Sundays, Usha will come with me to church. As I've told her, and I've said publicly, and I'll say now in front of 10,000 of my closest friends, do I hope eventually that she is somehow moved by the same thing that I was moved in by church? Yeah, I honestly do wish that, because I believe in the Christian gospel, and I hope eventually my wife comes to see it the same way. But if she doesn't, then God says everybody has free will, and so that doesn't cause a problem for me. That's something you work out with your friends, with your family, with the person that you love. Again, one of the most important Christian principles is that you respect free will. Usha's closer to the priest who baptized me than maybe I am. They talk about this stuff. My attitude is you figure this stuff out as a family, and you trust in God to have a plan, and you try to follow it as best as you can, and that's what I try to do. I want to make a final point. So I don't want to cut you off. I want to be respectful to all the people behind you in line, but I want to make this point about immigration, okay? If you ask the question, what is the exact right number of immigrants for the United States to let in, it is just very specific on the context. If you go back to the 1920s, the United States passed an Immigration Reform Act that effectively cut down immigration to close to zero for 40 years in this country. And what happened over those 40 years? The many people who had come from many different foreign countries and different foreign cultures, they assimilated into American culture. And there was an expectation that they would assimilate into American culture. I think we have two problems in our immigration system today. And my guess is you're probably a slightly more leftist political persuasion, liberal political persuasion, maybe not. But here's the thing. I remember back in my establishment GOP days when I was still very early getting involved in Republican politics, I remember a conservative think tank person who told me that one of the reasons why immigration was really good is that if you had enough diversity in a country, people would mistrust each other and they wouldn't join labor unions. Okay? So when I see a lot of left-wing people who theoretically support organized labor saying we need to flood the country with a limitless number of immigrants, they're unwilling to set any limitations on it. My response to that is you are destroying the very social trust on which American freedom and prosperity was built. And that is really important to me. So the honest answer to your question, what is the exact number of immigrants America should accept in the future? Right now, the answer is far less than we've been accepting. We have got to become a common community again, and you can't do that when you have such high numbers of immigration, which is one of the reasons why we have the immigration policy we do. Thank you. Next.
I loved when they showed her last, she was clapping. At first, she was like this, and she was mad, and she was defiant, and by the time he was done, she was clapping. That means something.
Good evening, Vice President Vance. I just want to say it's an honor to actually be able to talk to you.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. One of my biggest questions is, I feel like one of the biggest problems that America is facing today is that ever-growing social political divide, and we're seeing this on the Republican and Democratic side, but we've seen that a refusal to cooperate with the other side has led to some major issues, including right now the government shutdown, and I wonder, as the party in power, what are your plans to address that issue towards reaching that olive branch out to the other side to actually come to an agreement on how to go forward with our government?
Look, it's a very good question. And let me just say, on the government shutdown in particular, the reality here is that there's a very simple bill that just reopens the government. It does it through pretty much the end of the year. That got every single Republican in the House of Representatives to support it, and then it got 52 Republicans in the Senate and 3 Democrats in the Senate to support it. But because of weird Senate procedural rules, it requires a 60-vote threshold. So on that issue in particular, when you have every single Republican with like 2 exceptions in both houses of Congress, I feel pretty confident. I know that I'm partisan. I know I have an R next to my name, but I feel pretty damn good saying the shutdown is the Democrats' fault because we voted again and again to open. Now, but there's a broader question there, and I think most Americans, whatever their political persuasion, would actually like the country's political parties to work together better to solve the problems. And look, and I agree with that. And my approach when I was in the United States Senate was to try to find some issues where we could agree with the other side on and try to work with them on it. And let me give you one example. I really worry about concentration in the corporate sector. I worry about big corporate monopolies. I worry that when you have only 1 or 2 companies dominating an entire sector, it's bad for liberty and it's bad for prosperity. So you may be shocked to hear this, but I actually worked with Elizabeth Warren on some anti-monopoly stuff when I was in the United States Senate. But here's the problem. The problem is there is actually a lot of things where we could work across the aisle. There are a lot of President Trump is in my view, you haven't seen organized labor ever get behind a Republican at least in 100 years like they have behind Donald J. Trump. There are a lot of areas of common ground on that question. The problem is, as reasonable as some of these people can be in private, in public, the current obsession of the Democratic Party in leadership, I'm not saying every Democrat in the country, but the current obsession of every Democrat in Congress is get President Trump, fight President Trump, attack President Trump. It is impossible for us to work across the aisle unless a person is willing to put down their partisan sword, shut the hell up about fake scandals related to Donald Trump, and actually work with us. That's the way you make this happen. Next. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next. We're trying to get through as many as possible, guys. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Vice President.
Hello.
Hi. I actually drove here all the way from Memphis, Tennessee. Go Tigers. So, I'm sure everyone here is aware of the Memphis Safe Task Force that has been in the city for about a month now, and I checked a little earlier. As of this morning, I believe they've arrested 1,700 people and seized about 300 illegal guns. So I want to ask, how does this law enforcement objective jive with Attorney General Pam Bondi's pledge to make the Department of Justice a more pro-Second Amendment Department of Justice? Because I'm sure most people in here support the Second Amendment. So how can Republicans and this Department of Justice use the current gun laws that are on the books that a lot of pro-Second Amendment advocates disagree with, that we wanted to overturn in the big beautiful bill, but we didn't get it.
Yeah. So I understand the question. And by the way, I supported some of those changes in the big beautiful bill. I know the President of the United States did too. We didn't have the votes to get them in there, and that's as simple as that. But I know exactly what you're talking about because there were a couple of issues in particular. I talked to some of my Second Amendment friends. But here's the basic issue. We don't want people who have violated the law, who have committed felonies. The Second Amendment, like every other amendment, it's about due process. It's that you don't have your rights violated unless there is due process of law. If you're a person who's committed 4 felonies and a court has lawfully ordered that you shouldn't have a gun and you're running around with a firearm, I don't have any problem with law enforcement saying you don't get to have that firearm that is illegally possessed, illegally obtained. I think that's basic law and order. Now, again, if you had, if you had somebody come in and say, well, we don't think that person should have a firearm, but they haven't violated any law, that's a totally separate question. That's not what we're focused on. What we're focused on is violent crime and people who have violated, the bodily autonomy of another human people. A person who has committed an act of violence against one of their fellow citizens, we're going to clean up the streets, get those people off the streets, and make America safe for the American citizens again. That is our entire law and order policy, and I think we're doing a pretty good job at it. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm a Christian man, and I'm just confused why that there's this notion that we might have owe Israel something, or that they're our greatest ally, or that we have to support this multi-hundred-billion-dollar foreign aid package to Israel to cover this, to quote Charlie Kirk, ethnic cleansing in Gaza. I'm just confused why this idea has come around, considering the fact that not only does their religion not agree with ours, but also openly supports the prosecution of ours.
Yeah, so let me say a few things about this. First of all, when the President of the United States says America first, that means that he pursues the interests of Americans first. That is our entire foreign policy. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not going to have alliances, that you're not going to work with other countries from time to time. And that is what the president believes, is that Israel, sometimes they have similar interests to the United States and we're going to work with them in that case. Sometimes they don't have similar interests to the United States. In this example, the most recent Gaza peace plan that all of us have been working on very hard for the past few weeks, the president of the United States could only get that peace deal done by actually being willing to apply leverage to the state of Israel. So when people say that Israel is somehow manipulating or controlling the president of the United States, they're not controlling this president of the United States, which is one of the reasons why we've been able to have some of the success that we've had in the Middle East. Now, you ask about, sort of Jews disagreeing with Christians on certain religious ideas. Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the realities is that Jews do not believe that Jesus Christ is the Messiah. Obviously, Christians do believe that. There are some significant theological disagreements between Christians and Jews. My attitude is, let's have those conversations. Let's have those disagreements when we have them. But if there are shared areas of interest, we ought to be willing to do that too. For example, one thing I really care about is the preservation of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. Christians believe that that is the site where Jesus Christ was crucified, and also that his tomb is right there as well. My attitude is, if we can work with our friends in Israel to make sure that Christians have safe access to that site, that's an obvious area of common interest. I am fine with that. What I'm not okay with is any country coming before the interests of American citizens, and it is important for all of us, assuming we're American citizens, to put the interest of our own country first. That's what we're going to do. That's what we try to do every single day, I promise you. Thank you.
Hi, Mr. Vice President. I'm the president of our pro-life organization here at Ole Miss, Rebels for Life. And I myself, as a president, am 100% pro-life, and I know you've stated, you being Catholic, that you, in the past, you've stated that you're 100% pro-life, but since joining the presidential campaign as the VP, you've kind of wavered how you see abortion. So I'm just wondering what your stance is right now.
Sure.
And do you think that someone else's right to liberty trumps someone else's right to life?
Well, first of all, I appreciate your question, and I appreciate the work that you do. You asked the question, do I think somebody else's right to liberty trumps somebody else's right to life? No, I do not. I, in fact, do not believe that. Now, you said, and I'm going to take issue with something you said, just the premise of the question, which is that I've wavered on the pro-life issue. I really do believe that the president has been the most pro-life president in the history of the United States of America. Now, that said, there are two things that I think we have to keep in mind here. Now, one is the very, very hard question of, when we talk about our abortion policy, there are some very, very difficult edge cases. There are cases where you've got, an 11-year-old girl who was raped, who it would be unsafe for her to bring the baby to term. You've got situations where, bringing a baby to term would cause serious bodily harm, maybe death for the mother. It's one of the reasons why we believe in the exception in these cases where you have, again, they're edge cases, they're rare. I think the pro-abortion community would have you believe that's 90% of abortions. That's not true. But we got to be honest about the fact that there are some edge cases. The second thing I'd say about this is that we have to be prudential and practical in what can get accomplished. And there may be disagreements about what exactly that is, but if you look at the pro-life victories that the President of the United States has been able to achieve, he's been able to achieve them because he has worked within the system that we have. If your attitude is you are going to pursue the most aggressive pro-life option, even if it means you lose every election and every outcome means that you're going to be in a situation where the Democrats have abortion on demand up to the moment of birth to the very end. You've got to work within the political constraints that we have. Now, here let me just say something about this. And somebody asked me earlier about my Christian values. And one of the points I made is that when the settlers came to the New World, they found a very widespread child sacrifice. I imagine there are some people who don't agree with my view on the pro-life issue. Let me just make an observation. If you go to historical archaeological sites where there were brothels, and the two oldest businesses in the world are gambling and prostitution, so there were brothels even in very ancient civilizations. If you go back to ancient brothels and you dig up the bones of the women who were working in these places, you will very often find a lot of children who were buried with them. And the answer is that whenever a society decides to discard innocent babies, they also don't treat their women very well. And whenever a society mistreats its women, it is very often the babies who come right after that. There is a reason why Christian civilization ended the practice of child sacrifice all over the world, and it's one of the great accomplishments of Christian civilization. I believe that we should try to be protecting every unborn life. There's a question of exactly how we do it, but I would never say that anyone's right to life should be sacrificed. Thank you, ma'am.
First, I just have to say I'm thrilled to hear you articulate Christian values on a stage like this, and to remind us that things we take for granted and things we value so much have a Christian origin. So thank you for that. I really mean that. However,
so much of liberalism, by the way, so much of the far left is a sort of, if you really pay attention to it, it's a kind of perverted version of Christianity. Like, there's nothing wrong, of course, with focusing on people who are disenfranchised, for example. That's the focus of liberalism. But if you completely separate it from any religious duty, any civic virtue, then that can actually become, for example, an inducement to lawlessness. You can't just have compassion for the criminal, you also have to have justice too, which is why I think that a properly rooted Christian moral order is such an important part of the future of our country. But sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, amen, absolutely. Now, as much as I hope and pray that we can be a nation of Christians, the idea of a Christian nation scares me. So I'd like to hear your feedback on a pretty nuanced argument here, that perhaps there should be
a wall of separation, as at least one of our founders advocated, between church and state at the national level. However, that line can and should get blurrier as we descend to the community level. And perhaps that is actually the system, the structure that our founders gave us when they said Congress shall make no law establishing a religious body. However, states did have close relationships with churches at that time.
Yeah.
Do you think that that is a rationale that works? Do you think that that is the way we should implement around these Christian values?
So this is a very nuanced point, and I want to just make sure that everybody's kind of on the same page here. So if you go back to the First Amendment, it doesn't say separation of church and state. It says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. But if you go back to the founding time, there were actually a number of states that had formally recognized churches. So there was the Anglican Church of Virginia. That was the official state church of Virginia. Maryland at the time was the only majority Catholic colony, or at least had a significant Catholic representation of the original 13 colonies. There's a lot there. And yes, I do think that what happened is the Supreme Court interpreted Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion to effectively throw the church out of every public space at the federal, state, and local level. I think it was a terrible mistake, and we're still paying for the consequences of it today. But and I think this is your point, if you were to undo that, if you were to get back to a system actually meant by the founders where Congress is not setting up an established religion, but people in their local communities can kind of do whatever it is that they want to do, I think that would be a better system than what we have today. But I think the most important principle that we have got to remember is you do not have to completely kick God out of the public square, which is what we've done in modern America. It's not what the founders wanted. It's not good for the United States of America. And anybody who tells you it's required by the Constitution is lying to you. Thank you.
Hello, JD. How you doing today, man?
Good. How you doing?
In the wise words of Ricky Bobby, I don't know what to do with my hands.
Don't feel bad. Neither do I half the time, man.
Okay. First off, yeah, laugh it up. Okay, first off, I just want to say I am a huge supporter of the Trump administration. I was 3 months too late to vote for you guys, but if I could have, I would have. So I'm a huge supporter of you guys before I make my argument, but there is something you guys are doing that is kind of disturbing me a little bit.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. You guys have sent the military into Washington, D.C. and a few other cities that I can't think of off the top of my head, which first off, they've had wonderful results. Like no one can deny the results of that. It's wonderful. Some might even say the greatest. I'm a comedian.
I like this guy. Who is this guy?
Thank you, JD. Let's say
that wasn't me. That was the recording.
We get a complete tyrant in office, and let's say Turning Point USA is having a huge protest against something really bad that we don't like, and let's say a president is saying that it's getting violent. How can we? I'm trying to think. My mind's kind of blank. What is the difference between what you're doing and how could we prevent someone from abusing that power?
Yeah, so look, I understand where the question is coming from, and I think it's a fair question. And it's going to sound like I'm being sarcastic, and it really is not meant in any offense. But when you talk about what could another administration do, to take a wild, hypothetical example totally off the top of my head, what if Joe Biden sent the Federal Bureau of Investigation to start arresting his political opponents? Okay? So here's something that I want every conservative to remember. It's an important part of my entire political philosophy is we cannot be afraid to do something because the left might do it in the future. The left is already going to do it regardless of whether we do it. That is the takeaway of the last 40 years. And in particular, if you look at what we're doing, if Joe Biden wanted to deploy the National Guard to a red state in a place where the murder rate was twice what it is in third world countries to actually go after murderers, that would be a great use of the National Guard. Unfortunately, I don't think Joe Biden would use it like that. What I'm worried about, frankly, is what the far left already did with American law enforcement, and that is the thing that we have to prevent against. And the answer to that question is you make sure the people who did it face penalties for using the federal power against American citizens. And by the way, that's exactly what we're trying to do. Thank you.
Thank you, JD. Honor to meet you, man.
Good to meet you too, man.
This will be the last question.
Ricky Bobby, 2048. That's who I'm voting for. This is the last. Oh, wow. We've been here over an hour. That's amazing. Okay, I'm sorry. Those of you who didn't get to answer a question, I tried to be as quick as I could. Go ahead.
Mr. Vice President, I'm humbled and honored to be here. Recently, President Trump endorsed a candidate to run against Republican Representative Thomas Massie, who's opposed and criticized some of the Trump administration's aims. How would you address those who fear that principled disagreement or independent thinking is discouraged within the party because of how it can be framed as a betrayal instead of as internal accountability or an opportunity for debate and negotiation?
So it's a very good question. Let me say this one is hard for me. And the reason it's hard for me is because Thomas Massie and he's one of the first people that ever reached out to me about my book or about political office. I've known Thomas Massie well before I ever got involved in politics. Thomas's wife died maybe it was a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. It was a little while ago. She died very unexpectedly, was a very sweet and kind woman, and I was probably one of the first people that called Thomas to offer my condolences. I think the problem with Thomas, and I've told him this in private, and now I guess I'll say it in public, is it's one thing to disagree with the party on a particular issue. It's one thing to have your independent stand on a number of questions. And by the way, some of the stuff where Thomas Massie has been independent against the Republican Party, I've agreed with him with. Thomas and I worked together during 2023 where I was trying to stop the limitless flow of American money to Ukraine, and Thomas was one of the people I was working closest with it. But that's one thing. Being independent, having your own opinions is one thing. Voting against the party on every single issue, you're eventually going to make too many enemies. And that is the problem that Thomas has had. It's not one issue. It's not 3 or 4 issues. It's that every time that we've needed Thomas for a vote, he has been completely unwilling to provide it. That is why the President of the United States has trained his ire on Thomas Massie. It's because we can never count on him for some of the most difficult votes. I wish that weren't the case. I say that as somebody who's known Thomas well before I got into politics, but politics is politics. And when you always vote against the party, you can't expect the party to actually back you. That's the reality. So let me say just a couple of final things before I hit the road here. And one, it has been such an amazing honor to be with all of you this evening. I want to say 2 things. I want to say 2 things. Number one, when I was back in my agnostic days and I was thinking about returning to my faith, I remember talking to a friend of mine and actually talking about, a number of things. And he said something to me that was really interesting. And I was talking about all the things that were going wrong. I was looking to the future. I was talking about everything that was broken in the world. And I said to him, things are just really, really dark. And he stopped me in my tracks. He said, JD, you're right. There are a lot of things that are really dark out there, but despair is a sin. Now, I know not all of you are Christians, but for the Christians out there, I think that it is very important to remember that despair is actually a sin. It's okay to disagree. It's okay to criticize. It's okay to think that things aren't going well with a particular issue, but we are called to never give up hope. But I think one of the critical lessons of Charlie Kirk's life to his dying breath, this was a man who never lost hope in his creator and never lost hope in the United States of America. So let's remember that and carry that forward as a way to remember him. And the second thing that I want to say is, in line with despair being a sin, look, I imagine that I can tell most of you apparently agree with a lot of what I said. I'm sure that a lot of you disagree with some of the things that I've said. That's okay. We don't need in our political movement people who agree with us on every single issue. We got a couple of questions about Israel. We got a couple of questions about the National Guard deployments. We don't need somebody who agrees with us on every single question or every single issue. What we need is people of good faith who love the United States of America and are willing to work hard to save it. So when you look at all the accomplishments, you look at the accomplishments of the last 9 months. We inherited the worst border crisis in the history of the United States of America. We shut down the border, and net immigration is 2.5 million lower today than it was in 9 months. That means the total number of people that have been sent out of this country is 2.5 million. We have 2.5 million fewer illegal immigrants than we had. That's a great accomplishment. We inherited a terrible affordability crisis from Joe Biden, and I'm not going to tell you everything's perfect because it was a real bad situation that we inherited, but inflation is consistently below economists' expectations, and we're chipping away at it every single day. We inherited an economy where we had the largest trade deficit in the history of the United States of America. In 9 months, Donald Trump's tariff policies have cut the American trade deficit by over half. That means we're making more of our own stuff, and we're actually employing American workers to do it. And all that is to say that very often Charlie Kirk would call me and he would say, not attaboy, but he would say, do more, do more, do more. And I listened to Charlie because he was a dear friend and because I knew that he loved this country. My point is, the best way in your life to honor Charlie Kirk's legacy, it's not to despair, but to hope in the future of this country. If you disagree with something, then get involved in the movement to save this country. If you think that we could be doing more, then pick up the phone and get involved in the effort to change our minds and change the future of the United States of America in the process. My friends, the rebels of Ole Miss, despair is a sin. Do not give in to despair. Let's keep fighting to save the United States of America. Thank you. And God bless you.
Yeah, that's 48 right there. That's 48. I don't think it's Marco. I think it's going to be JD. Wow. The guy, he was talking to college kids, but he definitely spoke to me as well. Amazing, absolutely. I got two things I got to show you before I go. I can't do the after party, so I'm going to basically turn it on for like 3-4 minutes because we got to get down to the stadium. Big football game tonight. But something big might be on. If what I'm showing you next is true, something big may be brewing. I want you to check this out. It says something is going on. The Trump officials are moving onto military bases to get away from left-wing protesters, also known as violent extremists. The National Guard are preparing a, quote, quick reaction force for every state, and Trump officials are moving on base. Major public backlash is coming, and Trump is getting all his ducks in a row beforehand. Trump and his administration have been pretty openly telling us they're going to deploy the United States military to cities nationwide to stop crime, deport the newcomers, and lock up the Antifa terrorists. Sounds like the Insurrection Act is coming, and members of the Trump admin are moving into maximum security before the hammer drops. And he drops two sources here, The Atlantic and The Independent. The Atlantic, it says Stephen Miller, Marco Rubio, Kristi Noem, and others have taken over homes that until recently housed senior officers. In The Independent, same thing. They're moving into military bases. What does it mean? I don't know. But there's got to be a reason why he's moving the officials onto military bases. Couple that with the SNAP benefits, who knows what's going to happen. Which means you need to keep your eyes open too. And in closing, I got something funny for you. I had to track down and say, is this actually true? President Trump landed here today at about 2:45 or 3 o'clock, and his team didn't waste any time trolling the Democrats. You've got to see this. Okay, this says trick or treat. I don't know if you guys have seen it yet, but you're going to get a treat here. Let me make sure you guys can see it. You got to watch the whole thing. Notice there's nothing. There's no caption. It just says trick or treat. But I'm going to let the video play. It's only 34 seconds long. But yeah, you're going to crack up. Watch the little kids coming. Okay, here we go. Oh my God. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I gotta play it again. I gotta rewind that. Oh my goodness. Oh gosh. Oh my gosh. They are going to absolutely lose it. The epic troll, the troll master is back in town. He's back. Oh my goodness. All right, thank you guys for putting up with me. The construction got one more day of it, and I'm gonna go ahead and put the after party on, but I can only put it on for like 2 minutes because I gotta get out of here. All right, talk to you guys tomorrow. SV just caught me. I forgot in my haste to get out of here and get to the football game. I forgot to do the super chat. So give me 1 second. I'm going to pull those up because I must acknowledge super chats. I'm sorry. I almost signed off without getting them, waiting for the system to come back up because I turned everything off. 1 second. Come on. All right, hold on. 1 second. I know I'm in a hurry. The Dolphins are going to get probably butt stopped. Maybe they'll surprise us all and win a game tonight. I don't know. Maybe. I'm not sure. All right, let's see. Thank you, SV, for reminding me as I was running out the door. Let me look at which window do I have to go to. I believe it's window 46. There it is. This one. Yes, Ashley, we're headed to the game, so I have to go ahead and get ready. All right, here we go. I think I got it here. Here we go. All right, I know Z really looked a bit peaked. It seems everything has worked out by Besant and his team. Yes, I agree as well. Barry, why is the reporter's microphone unhearable? He's talking, I guess, during the press conference because they don't give them a mic. I don't know. For some reason, you'd think that high in the government that they would have stuff put together and do it correctly, but they don't. So can't help you. Raven Kirkendall, omit newcomers from SNAP if using emergency dollars. I would definitely omit the newcomers. And that may be a problem, because if they tell them they got to do it and then they dig in, oh, good luck. Good luck with a judge trying to force Trump to give that away. Mark Hurley, great show, Barry. Enjoy the game tonight. Thank you. I just re-upped for Dolphins season tickets for next year. Yep, been a sucker for 25 years, but I still love them. We go not expecting anything, but who knows? They may surprise us. Breaking, Big Who, BLM has pledged to help the black community when... I'm laughing because I know it's a joke. When SNAP ends, nope, fake news. BLM don't care about the black community, not at all. No, they don't. It's all a ruse. All right, thank you, everybody. See you tomorrow.